John Benetti.
Okay. So far.
Yep.
Maybe the other three.
D as in boy, O-N-E-T-T-I, John Benetti.
Are there any comments from the board on topics not on the agenda? Don't hear anybody? Nothing? John's gonna be like 10 or 15 minutes late. He's over at the fire station. He said he was gonna start at that meeting, then he's gonna be here, so. Brandon, do you have anything not on the agenda?
I don't.
I didn't write anything down, but I think, are we going to talk about, somewhere on here, help me out, Brandon, about the special town meeting, or should I?
Yep, it's under my report.
Okay, it's under your report.
Yeah, unless you
Okay.
wanna.
No, I just wanna keep that in everybody's mind, because there's a lot of ballots that are going out, it's absentee ballots, and I've already had I can't remember how many people have called me to ask me about questions about this.
The same thing. I have a question about that when we get to it. I knew it was on his report, so I figured you'd talk about it.
Yeah, okay. So we can wait now, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows that on Saturday, September 19th at 1 o'clock, I mean, it's gotten a little confusing because they thought they were going to vote that day. I said, no, it's information, rain or shine. So we can talk about more of that when we get to Brandon's report. Let's look at the minutes of, is it August 17th, but I have August 3rd in my packet. Is that a mix-up or not? If you look at the cover sheet, it says August 3rd of the minutes themselves.
There's minutes in the back of the packet too.
Oh, is there?
Is there one meeting or two?
There was one in the back, I thought.
I'm not sure why it says August 3rd.
Is the cover of, when it says draft,
When I look at, if I may, Mr.
Right.
Chairman, when I look at the August 3rd, if you look at page 2 at the top, Paul Tillman made a motion to include the hearing for the grant on 1879 on 8/17. So it looks like these minutes are for the 3rd. This particular set of minutes are for the 3rd, not the 17th. This first set.
okay, Paul.
And if you turn to number 13 in your packet, I think there's also,
Yeah, those are minutes for appointments. These are,
okay,
I think the date on these minutes are incorrect.
Do you want to amend them or correct them now, or should we just move them to table until the next meeting to give you time?
Well, the events that are in these minutes were from the last meeting.
Yes,
From the
some
17th.
of them are.
Because if you look at the top where you just pointed out, it says motion made to close the public hearing on.
okay, so that date's wrong.
Do you want to take some time to straighten these out, or what do you want to do?
I think we amend the date at the top from August 3rd to August 17th.
Because if you look at the third page, they're not numbered, but if you look at the third page, just ahead of the town manager report, it says Mike Todd made a motion to approve the minutes of 8/3.
Yes,
Okay, so this has to be
Yep,
yes.
the 17th.
Yep.
So, DeForest, can you just make sure that these are the minutes of August 17th, 2020? Need a motion to approve the minutes of August 17th, 2020.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of August 17th, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes of August 17th, 2020. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's move to Brandon for your report, please.
I'm going to be discussing a couple of things today. We're going to start with the transfer station permit stickers and punch cards. As you know, we've been in communication with Ted Siegler from DSM Environmental Services. He's a resource economist. We've been in conversation with West Windsor and Reading regarding our transfer station. One of the recommendations made by Ted Siegler was to enforce the permit sticker requirement so that we can determine how many West Windsor residents are actually using the facility. And for other reasons, we have some people that are using the transfer station without a permit sticker fee, possibly from other towns. So we created a sign that will go up at the transfer station tomorrow. No permit sticker, no entrance, effective October 1st. So we'll begin enforcing that, I believe, Reese having the police there for the first couple of days just to make sure there's no issues. We're ordering a smaller amount of punch cards to get us through until we decide whether or not we're gonna switch to an electronic system. Right now we're using paper punch cards that can be easily replicated, and we're thinking about moving to an electronic system where we need to get quotes and so forth to determine how much it would cost. Then I'll come back before the board and present to see if we want to move in that direction. On August 27th, my office submitted the local government expense reimbursement grant to the Vermont Department of Taxes. And basically, what we did is we have COVID-19 expenses to date, and then we have anticipated COVID-19 expenses up until December 30th. So we submitted a grant for $54,665, and basically what that will do is reimburse the town for the expenses we incurred, and then also reimburse or give us funding to fund additional COVID-19 costs between now and December 30th. Included in that grant application was $10,000 to distribute to local businesses in Weathersfield that were impacted by COVID-19. So basically, if we get the funding, we will be the grantor. We'll have to develop a set of criteria. We'll have to get a review committee to review applications from businesses, and then we can decide who to give the funding to based on the criteria that we set. The third thing I'd like to speak on today is the existing state of our website. We've completed the first phase of our website, so basically we've taken our old website and we've converted it into the new format we have today, to make it more user-friendly and so forth. Included in the grant request was another $5,000 to go to phase 2. And the reason we're doing that is to basically coincide with what Mr. Winnan will talk to you about under his report, which is a digitalization grant that his office submitted. So the idea is to, yes sir? Sir?
Just keep going, if
Okay.
somebody, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, just a second, we're going with the town manager report, please.
Here's.
I don't know if they're muted or, I don't know. Somebody might be, but.
So the idea is to strengthen our website to the extent of offering the majority of our services online. Previously, our website was difficult to use, so this is an effort to make it efficient, user-friendly, people can get access to the information they need at any time of the day. So as everyone knows, we have a special town meeting on September 19th. Our emergency management director secured a large tent and a portable restroom. This meeting will take place at the I met with the moderator last week. We mailed the postcards that you see in your packet, the yellow postcard there. And at the meeting, we'll have the PA system and the microphone so everybody can hear what's going on. And then voting will be conducted by Australian ballot. And that will be done at the general election at Martin Memorial Hall on November 3rd. Polls open at 8 a.m. and close at 7 p.m.
What is the time on the meeting? 1 o'clock, right?
Yeah, 1 o'clock p.m.
Thank you. Sorry.
The final thing.
I wanna,
Yeah.
you're still on the town meeting?
Yep.
Okay, good. I just wanna clarify, the meeting is outside the school building. The building will be locked. The only thing that the school is providing is power for our PA system. It'll be rain or shine. There is handicapped, accessible restrooms. There's gonna be 3, in addition to the tent. We are gonna, either get together with the school or we're gonna move some of these tables and a few chairs up there. It is, for information. And as I said early on in the beginning of the meeting, I've been asked, I don't know, 6 or 8 phone calls about they seem to be trying to test this in relationship to themselves, these new words on this petition. I want to make sure that people understand, that people that are going to watch this SAPA TV tape, that this was given to us by way of petition, that it did not go through the regular channel, which would be the planning board. The planning board would have taken time to try to form some of these questions to that revised bylaw. And that portion did not happen. So while I don't want to get in picking sides about what I feel about this, there are a lot of questions that are starting to surface about whether or not people need 25 acres in order to get a processor. The word processor is trying to have definition, whether that means a wood splitter that you buy at Tractor Supply, or whether that means a great big thing. There's questions about how much wood. If I buy a log truckload, does that make this, or is it 1,000 cord? There is no definition in this bylaw change that addresses that. That I want to tell the people that would have gone through that process at the planning board. It did not. So this, because I've heard other comments, what's the town trying to do? The town only put this on the ballot for the people to decide. Okay, this is by petition by way of 125 names that came, and they're all registered voters, and they needed to read what they signed and adapt that potential bylaw to the use. But no one's against cutting wood, or I've heard all kinds of different things. But this does go to every single zoning district, but it doesn't frame how much, how little, what it means, what it doesn't mean. So I want to be really clear about that. I'm getting a lot of phone calls and stuff. Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to add to what you said, to let people know that it went through our board, but not in a way that anything can be changed. By state law, when a petition is filed, it has to go through a hearing at the planning commission. It also has to go through a hearing back at the select board. From a planning commission standpoint, there's nothing that can be changed in the wording of that, of the way the petition is written. And the way it was written was also to be by Australian ballot. So the select board pushed that to go that route. So this is a bylaw that is written by petitioners only, not anything.
By the town.
Right, not by the town.
And one of the reasons why we're having the town meeting is because at the top of the petition it said they asked for a meeting of the town and then an Australian ballot vote. We're trying to satisfy the petition without changing any words other than grammar. If it happened to be a spelling of a word, that's it. So, and we tried to do it on the primary. We couldn't fit it into the days that we needed by the law by the time we got the petition. So this is why it's got to go on November. So 19th of September, 1 o'clock, Saturday at the school. It will be outdoors. You won't be able to get in the building. Did you have another question?
Yeah, just quickly, as the chair, is there anything you'd like us, either select board or pass down to the planning commission to prepare or do, or just when questions arise, we just answer them on the spot?
Well, you have a meeting on Monday?
Next Monday.
Coming up.
Yeah.
I would like some clarification in case you're asked that on the 19th. Because if it didn't go through the planning board, then you certainly have a right to say what you...
Well, we already have a statement, report that was given to the select board here, and also, it's Chris's report, so we'll have a little bit, but like I said, probably not go too much, because like I said, it's not a size thing, it's just if people have questions about it, what does this mean, what does that mean?
What's happening right now with COVID-19, one of the issues are the amount of Australian ballots that are magnifying this as far as us trying to get people informed one way or the other. If they like this or don't like it, or it doesn't really matter, because it's on the general ballot for the 3rd of November. Okay, Brandon, go ahead with we're on the town manager report, John.
Yeah.
You're not.
The final thing that I have, Does anybody know if the town has a public records policy? I couldn't find anything.
What
Public records policy?
I'm aware of,
What's that?
not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Is there any interest to create a public records policy for Weathersfield?
What would that mean?
What would not be public record?
Well, it's not whether or not something would be public record. It's a policy defining how long we have to respond to a public records request, and if it's a big public records request and is time consuming, you have the ability to charge fees
Right.
for printing and for
Yep.
time and so forth. It's all laid out in 1 VSA 316, access to public records and documents, and within this, it spells out some of those things. So I was usually, in many towns there's public records policies, so I was wondering if there was interest in, this way if somebody asks us for something, which we get a lot of public records requests, we have the ability to say, hey, this is the policy, we have 15 days to respond. And in our schedules, it makes us more efficient and productive as we move forward through our day.
Can you, it wouldn't be the first town in Vermont that may ask for that, but they may have some kind of a model.
Yep.
Or not, I don't know what, but that might be a place to start. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Okay. Let's go to land use. Chris?
Good evening, guys. I just want to let you guys know I've submitted a memo for you to review, giving an update of everything I've done since I've been in office. I just went into some of the highlights real quick. Took office on April 7th. Since then, I've issued 31 permits, generating $2,800 in revenue. I've responded to 6 non-noise related complaints, 3 that were building without a permit, and 3 that were solid waste removal issues. Of those, 2 buildings without a permit were rectified, 1 required a notice of violation to be issued, and a fine imposed of $100 a day. 2 solid waste removal issues were required a notice of violation to be issued, while the other was also rectified. I still receive noise complaints, which we'll be talking about later on. Under the litigation section of the memo, it talked about the $20,000 in fine case for the airport road issue. We're currently in settlement negotiations as of today, so we're just be more posted on that. And there's an update for the parcel on 131 as well. As far as the grants goes, I submitted the coronavirus municipal records digitization grant in the amount of $19,800. This is to contract for the indexing of land records from 1977 to the present, so that people can access the records and do proper title searches and things of that nature. It's currently pending review at the state level, and we're currently discussing digitization of select board, zoning board, and planning commission minutes and agendas. We're still working on the updates for the bylaws as well as the website. And that's all I have.
Was there it seems like, and I don't know where I picked this up, whether it was from one of the emergency management things that I was listening to with the governor, where they had a specific grant that was scheduled to digital records.
Yes.
Okay, good.
That's the one that Mr.
That's the one you filed for? Okay, good. Because I know that they had the name on that, which is a little unusual because most of these are pretty generic, you know, COVID-19 grant, but this one specifically had to do with records that were going from paper to disk.
Correct.
So that's all in, that you guys got together and that's filed?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
And then I submitted the $5,000 for our website to basically build off of that, so we can pull all those records into the website and make them accessible within our website. In the case that we do have to go remote again due to COVID-19, we'll be able to work remotely and provide those records to the public.
Did you have a question, Mike?
Just a point that I want to make. Bylaw updates. November of last year, the Planning Commission held hearings on bylaws, and just, you know, the way things happened, the processes that just got in the way, including COVID later on. We never had hearings here for those. it costs money to have hearings, and we certainly don't wanna go through that process again, so we're gonna start having hearings over at the planning commission, and that will mean that there's a lot of bylaws that are gonna be headed over this way. And I know we got a busy schedule coming up, so, is there any recommendation on how many bylaws you might wanna see in one evening for?
I guess it depends on what the
Hearing.
topic is.
How controversial.
Yeah, some might be
Might be.
easier than others, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get them together and then
Yep.
send them to Brandon, and then he can, whatever, he can forward them to us to see, to take a litmus test and see.
Yeah,
Depends
the
on
only
what-
thing is we have a certain amount of time after we have our hearing on them, so we'll,
Right.
you know, definitely.
Well, but you guys probably know what's
Yeah.
harder than others, right? I
Yeah.
would think.
Wasn't there a note that, there were some bylaws that you guys had finished with that never made it here?
That's what
That's what we're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. We had hearings back
But
in November.
aren't your hearings closed, or are they still open?
We have to redo them.
No, they're closed,
Because of the time span?
Yep.
Okay.
so we're gonna load ourselves up with some and then try to get them.
Okay, any other questions of Chris at land use? Nothing? Thank you. Next one up, is you wanna take this, Brandon? You want to talk about having a public hearing? Cause this is not a public hearing.
No, it's not.
Okay, why don't you take this over? It's for a Drumlin Road easement. I don't know whether everybody has looked at this or not, but go ahead.
So Chris and I have been working with Mr. Benetti over on Drumlin Road, and what he's requesting is an easement to go onto the road. Chris, you wanna take a little bit of this, cause I know you've been working with him more than I have.
Yeah, I've been working with Mr. Benet since about May. He's trying to put a single-family dwelling in on his parcel. The problem is that his parcel is basically split in half by a town road. And because of the way that the pond sits on his parcel and the road splits it, in order for him to put a single-family dwelling on there, he needs easement to run his pipe and utilities underneath to the other side of the road.
So, we sent this over to Nate. Nate drafted this easement deed, and in order to have this easement deed approved, we need to have a public hearing that's warned at least 15 days in advance. So we set the public hearing date for October 5th at 7:15 p.m. if it's acceptable to the board. I would request that we hold the public hearing on that date.
Here's my comment to Brandon when I saw this. I said that, and it reminded me of the tax policy that we have, and when he informed me that there were multiple separate agreements with different terms in them. The first thing that came to mind on this for me was that I think we should put this under a policy with highway, or make one, dealing with water lines or septic lines that happen to cross town roads. And I don't want to make a lot over something, but I don't like the idea of having separate agreements where someone may remember and then all of a sudden a few years go down the road and then they can't remember. I'm not sure at that moment that someone would need an easement, but they would have to follow the policy of whatever that meant regarding septic or water. And I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was how many stories I'd hear from either Gurney Brothers or somebody saying that there was a lot more frost in the road, and then the line was frozen. So, and I see the easement that says, okay, it's the responsibility of the person to fix it all, but that doesn't mean what happens to the people that might be down the road or up the road from that. It's going to create something. What do you think about it, Ray? I mean, you're in the I know this is the new news that you're
To
hearing.
me, an electrical utility is different than a water line or a sewer line, and that's exactly how I feel with it. Being the frost changes, it can freeze, you have to have it well below the frost line, have to be well defined, how it's built, and to a certain spec. And I think the state probably has specs for their roads, you should probably follow that. Going forward, I think all utilities that go across the road should have this process. Personally.
I agree because
Documented.
and what does that mean when you just said frost? Because the road being clear is much different than grass or that have some snow protection.
Even a heavy truck going down that road, breaking pipe, doesn't have to be frost, it has to be any kind of a break
Yes,
with a fluid utility.
yes.
You know, it could be the same with gas on, if you want to be running.
John?
One thing that I think is gonna make a difference is most of our roads, or an awful lot of our roads, are right-of-ways and not owned. So technically, they're going across their own land.
I was thinking the same thing.
And disturbing our surface that we chose to maintain. So I think they have every right in the world to do it. I agree with you that we just need a, and the second part of the question, why did this trigger a hearing?
I sent it over to Nate, and Nate, our town council, told us that we need to hold a public hearing.
Only if we had an easement.
You're
So
giving away
we're giving
town
something.
property.
Yes, so I don't know the answer to what you just said, and I suspect that it's different for a lot of different roads. I just wanna be consistent. I don't want this to plow new ground or old ground or whatever ground. If somebody wants to do something with septic or water, we need to have a blueprint going over the road or not.
Just like we do for curb cuts and all that stuff, and that's quite doable.
I don't know.
What Dave said is really important though, that, you know, if it was just an easement and somebody forgets about it,
No, that's right,
You know,
it needs to be recorded.
you know, if we have it in a policy somewhere where the town highways and the office is keeping an eye on it.
You can go into the system and you,
Yes.
Drummond Road, it comes up wherever it is. how deep
I
it
don't
is.
think you need an easement for this. I think that whatever needs to follow the policy, and then it gets recorded so that you know at the highway that something's on Drumlin Road or any other road that happens to be built. That's what I think. I don't know that you need an easement. And that would absolve all this thing about who owns what where.
Well, but I think that's what it comes down to, is who owns what where, what John said. If we only have an easement for right of way, and the property is already his, then right, it's only a policy. But if for some
If we
reason.
own it, then it needs an
Then
easement,
it needs an easement.
which means doing some research in the law.
Yes. Because I think Drumlin Road is a relatively new road in the historical purposes of Weathersfield. The whole development isn't, 100 years old, so. Can you, Brandon, get together with Ray and think about a policy rather than this? I don't advise warning this hearing at this
Okay.
time. Because for me, it may be simpler than this, to have a policy and have the person adapt to the policy.
That's what Chris and I originally thought, but then when we sent it off to town council, he sent us this note here.
But we don't have any construction standards, so we can't tell anybody what to do. They may say, okay, like, they may think a contractor
I
says
don't
it's
want
3
to
feet.
make construction standards, I want to find something that I want to follow something rigid, so we know. I'm not going to
Yes.
guess and say, 3 feet.
That's exactly right.
I don't want
Did
that.
you have a question, Paul?
Yeah. No, I don't wanna muddy it up anymore. I'm good, thank you.
Can you rethink this, and if you need to bring it back up on the next meeting, we'll take it up right away?
Yep.
Or maybe you'll have some information before then, you can share it with us, or I don't know what.
It'd be totally different if you're going through Housington Field, that's town property, I can see you for that, but if you said a town road, we don't know if we own it, or it's the right way, or,
Yeah.
that's a lot of history.
We should do this relatively quickly if he's trying to get this done
Yeah,
before
I
winter
think
time,
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
because not gonna work out well.
How far along is the project? Just starting.
Just starting, he's been trying to do it for,
So this
4 months now, he's been trying to get it going?
He's been hitting a lot of roadblocks
Well,
with this.
I'd like to throw another suggestion on the table that we can always warn a hearing and cancel it. There is a small cost for the warning of the hearing,
Advertising.
but there's a 15-day waiting period, isn't there?
Let's find out, let's give them time to find out if
Because
it's
you're
actually
talking about
owned.
pushing it out 2 meetings if you don't do something tonight on the hearing.
Yes,
Because you could have to warn the hearing at the next meeting, and it would be 2 out from that. So you're really kicking that can, a good probably 6 weeks down the road.
I just don't see why it triggers a hearing, period.
No, I agree, but we could always cancel the hearing if we don't need it.
According to town council, if the legislative body of a town or village desires to convey municipal real estate, the legislative body shall give notice of the terms of the proposed conveyance by posting a notice in at least 3 public places within the municipality, one of which shall be in or near the municipal clerk's office. Notice shall also be published in a newspaper of general circulation within the municipality. So this is what he sent back to us, and he said the exception applies where a conveyance of real estate is directly related to the control, maintenance, construction, relocation, or abandonment of town highways. And he didn't think the easement fell into any of those categories. So he basically what he stated is that we needed the public hearing.
Let me interrupt, I just got a text from somebody saying they can't hear the meeting.
So Dave, you had mentioned that that development wasn't very old. When Ronnie Brown did that, did he actually convey the property to the town, or was it actually, I mean, that is what the normal thing is today. And I would assume that that is new enough that it would have actually been conveyed to the town, the property owner.
And I don't know that, but I remember walking on the extension. I don't know. I'm of the mindset, now maybe I'll get overruled or whatever by everybody else here, and then fine, we'll take a motion, but I'm of the mindset to let Brandon do some more research on this before we go ahead with anything. Hearing or not hearing, I need some more information from me.
It's working.
I was just thinking, in the interest of time, we could set the hearing date, we can always cancel it. We don't need it. Which would be the case if we don't own it. We don't need it, just cancel the hearing. But at least that way we can get it set and be, like I said,
I still think I'm gonna be in favor of having specs drawn up and a policy that has to do with a hearing or no hearing or anything.
Oh, I
for
agree,
me.
I agree with that completely.
So set aside the hearing about a potential easement or not. I don't see any specs that would make me comfortable, not necessarily for the owner, but for the other people in the development. The roadblock, if there would be any, and lately, owners are changing ownership fairly frequently, so it's good to look at the house and then set aside the owner for a minute. Is everybody online that can hear this now, Brandon, or is there a problem with the audio or listening, anything, or did we fix that? Is there a way to test it or not?
Yeah. Oh, you can't see it up there.
No. Look, let's kind of wind this up.
So
Is there,
that's the here, and it says the microphones.
is there, does the board want to go forward with and warn the hearing or not, or what do you want to do? Let me poll the board. Mike, I'm going to go around the table.
Yeah, I think we should go ahead and warn the hearing. That way it's in place if we need it.
Paul?
I want more information myself.
Joey?
I'd like more information so long as we're not gonna hold up this guy's project. That's the main thing.
Ditto. So the next meeting is,
I think Mr. Benetti is requesting to speak.
okay,
Yep.
the next meeting is the 21st, is that correct, Brandon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Can you hear me, Mr. Benetti? Would you like to speak?
Yeah, this is John Benetti. I just wanted to say thank you for including this on your agenda today. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can actually get the camera. Let's see. Sure. Great. We purchased this property over almost a year ago. We've been working with the town, who have been incredibly helpful, Brandon and Chris, in moving forward. And this has been, they mentioned that we hit a few roadblocks, which we have. We're really committed to doing everything, exactly, as it should be, done, adhering to all, Vermont standards, town standards, and I just wanted to say that, it would be my opinion to try to move this along as kind of fast as possible, because we've really been working on this for several months now, just trying to get permission to do kind of basic stuff.
Were you able to hear any of our conversation in the last 5 minutes or no?
Yes, I heard all of it. There was some comments that were a little bit more difficult to hear. Yes.
Okay, good. Then my comments, I hope you heard them, were I do not believe we have a policy in town that is specific to the construction portion of either septic or water lines on any road. And I thought that that was important to either find out about or not, because we have other things in town that have separate agreements, and they're not really consistent, and I'd like to see that. So I know this is a class 3 road, I know it's town maintained, but I'd like to see some specs or something so that the construction portion of it satisfies. I know Ray would be on board with me for the town highway for that. I don't think that's terribly complicated. I think there are other towns out there that have them, but I don't think we do. And given that portion, I'm not, and then the ownership got brought up about whether or not the town owns Drumlin Road or whether the landowners do to the center and the town has a right of way. I don't know that yet. Historically speaking, the older roads tend to be owned, and I'm talking 100 or 200 years old, tend to be owned by the landowners, but the newer ones are actually owned by the town. They get turned over to the town. So I think if Brandon or Chris or Ray or a combination of them three get together, that's where I'm at with trying to figure out how specs can be drawn and whether or not we actually need an easement or not.
Would it be helpful if I submitted for your review an engineered spec and design prior to your consideration of the proposed easement?
Yes, but that would be helpful to go to a policy that we could get drafted or something. Primarily, it's got to do with depth, I'm sure, and frost and other things. Obviously, things aren't going to happen in the summer if something is 6 feet down, but there's always a consideration of a break somehow. You're in a town road, and when you're on private property, then it becomes the owner's responsibility. But if you're in the town road, then it becomes a town problem as well. This is a septic line, right? This is septic.
Yes, it would be for septic, and yes.
So, and immediately what came to my mind on that was, then if we had a septic line running, obviously you couldn't have any water line running near it. So there are issues that need to be sorted out. Did you have a question, Joey, or no?
Yeah, wouldn't his site map be able to lay all this out for us, if he could just give us a
If-
site map?
yeah,
and
if
then
he-
we could
if he
take a look
could-
at that,
could
and
take a look at
it
that.
probably will clear it up, I mean, this
Yeah.
is not the first time this is happening.
Now, I don't know, I haven't heard of any, and it's been a long time, though, we're crossing I don't,
Or maybe there's an alternative way, I don't know
Yep.
what this property looks like,
Yep.
maybe.
I think water is much more common than septic, I can
Yeah.
tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we're gonna leave it, I pulled the board, I guess we're gonna leave it in the hands of Brandon and Chris and Ray to work out something, and then if you provide that information, whatever you've got to him, that might be helpful on the construction. And then at the very minimum, we'll take it up at the very next meeting.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll be in communication with you, John.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Road grader bid. Do you want this, Brandon, or Ray, or what do you wanna do, Brandon? You can.
Yeah, I'll take it. So on July 20th, 2020, we advertised a request for a bid to furnish the town with an articulated all-wheel drive motor grader. On August 3rd, 2020, we held a pre-bid conference. On August 12th, we distributed addenda to everybody that attended the bid conference. And on August 20th, we held our bid opening. The town received 3 bids. 2 out of 3 of those bids were complete bids. One of those bids was disqualified. The bid form was not complete, and the bid form is right there if you want to take a look at it. The net cost was not filled in. See attachment B for the specifications of our qualified bids. See attachment E to view proposal number 1, and see attachment F to view proposal number 2. The specifications I have up here in the PowerPoint between proposal 1 and proposal 2. These are the differences between these two machines. Jeff and I met and we went over the differences, and he also put them in bold in the proposals himself. So proposal number 1, this is a machine ordered. This is machine ordered, whereas proposal number 2 is pre-built. Proposal number 1 includes a transmission bottom guard, whereas proposal number 2 has a transmission bottom guard and an extreme duty hitch guard. And basically that's more protection for the center joint. Proposal number 1 has a deluxe cab with air conditioning, heating, and a pressurizer with window ducting and a rear defroster fan. Proposal number 2 has all of that, including an anti-icing front glass, which is heated glass. And then proposal number 1 has left and right cab doors with wipers. And proposal number 2 has that and anti-icing heated glass on the right-hand door. So what that allows the driver to do is basically the ice will melt from the right-hand window, making it easier for him to do his job. Specification analysis continued. Under proposal number 1, this machine has an electric operational over hydraulic joystick operational controls. Proposal number 2 has advanced joystick operational controls with auto articulation. Jeff and I spoke a little bit about that. It's not really going to do much for us.
Yeah, it actually will. So what it does is as you steer the machine, it actually will articulate based on how much it's a joystick, so you're gonna operate with your left hand to steer, and in order to articulate, you'd have to turn your wrist left and right, and that's what makes the machine articulate, so you'd steer and articulate. If you put it in auto articulation, basically depending on how much you steer the machine, it actually is gonna articulate on its own without you having to do that other function, and it's gonna be based on how much you actually steer the machine. So it will make operation much more efficient.
Proposal number 1, this machine has a 12-foot moldboard. Proposal number 2 is a 14-foot moldboard. Proposal number 2 also has a higher and thicker moldboard. So this is a heavier duty moldboard. It adds 200 pounds to the machine. Its useful life is longer. Under proposal number 1, it has 2 1400 cca heavy duty batteries, 150 amp alternator, 710 amp starter. Proposal number 2 has a 270 amp alternator and a 1000 amp starter. Proposal number 1 has an AM FM weather band radio. Proposal number 2 has that and a machine security system. And just for the record, the difference in cost between these two machines is $5,000.
So 2 is 5,000 more than 1?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Under proposal number 1, it has all LED lighting, which uses less electricity. Proposal number 2 has halogen lighting. Proposal number 1 has no front counterweight. Proposal number 2 has a front counterweight of 885 pounds. So after Ray and I and Jeff reviewed both of these bids, we believe that we should move forward with proposal number 2, which is the 2020 Caterpillar 140 all-wheel drive motor grader identified in proposal number 2. Do you want to move forward with discussing finance options at this time, or do you want to review the specifications in more detail?
Are there any questions so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
They couldn't have got a fridge or a microwave or something.
Yeah.
in the cafeteria.
I was thinking couch
Couch.
or TV.
Or sleeper,
Sounds like a nice
cab.
fridge.
Yeah.
Ray, where's Ray on this?
I think the better value is number 2. The longer to get number 1 to meet number 2, you can spend a lot more than $5,000. And I think it's a better deal, personally.
It looked like
I know it sounds like there's a lot of features on this thing that are fluff, but when you're in there for 9 hours a day, it's nice to have some comfort to a certain
There were
extent.
only a few that were questionable for me and some others that were good ideas.
Well, I think we haven't hit the key yet, because it described to me that with time, a lot of things that could break that would be very expensive, so we haven't got to the warranty part yet.
Yeah.
But when you talk about a joystick doing lots of different functions, at some moment in time, the joystick's gonna say, I'm not working left or right or something. So you said, Brandon, that the trade, so help me out on the article. The article said up to X. What was the article that was voted on by the voters?
Up to, let's see here, I believe it's up to $220,000, but let me just confirm.
As the trade difference?
Yes.
While he's looking that up, can I ask a question
Yep.
back on the specs?
Yep.
Do either one of these machines come with all the warning lights that are required? Or are we installing?
I don't believe there was any.
There's a strobe
Was
light.
there a strobe on
There's a
there?
strobe light
Okay.
back on number 2,
Alright, yes, you're right, there is a strobe on too.
not.
So that, the answer was no? That-
The answer is yes, it does have a strobe light.
The
okay.
answer is no, yes.
Is there something on this grader that gets transferred to any new grader? Or is it just gone?
No, it's gone.
Okay.
In this case, it's
Because the only thing that's a downgrade from the P2 to P1 is the halogen. You would replace those as they burn out with LED.
Dave, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
repeat that question again about transferring stuff?
Is there anything on the grader now, and it doesn't matter to me whether it's a radio, lights, something, I don't know.
Two-way
Two-way
radio,
Something.
your own two-way radio would come out of it and go into the.
Okay, okay. When I saw this, just for the record, when I saw this in the beginning, when the whole proposal, you know where I'm sitting with money with the town right now. I mean, we haven't even collected our first quarterly tax payment. So the dump truck to me was a little bit different because we have, 6 of them or whatever we have, and some of them are getting tired. The grader for me from the start was, I opposed it. But right now, given the fact that the trade difference is what it is, I've changed my mind. So perhaps we should talk about what, and I don't know the rest of the board, what you feel about it or not. It would have to plug into the long-term capital payment. I don't know when the first payment starts, and so we do at some moment have to talk about financing because that fits in a lot to the town's business. So it's easy to say buy it, but then we gotta pay for it. So you've gotta plug that in. So when would you think the first year's payment, is it not this year, it would be next year?
Yep, next year.
Okay, let me ask you a question of Jeff then, because either one of these proposals has to do with Caterpillar, I wanna be clear about that. When would an anticipated delivery be made in either case?
I would say option one, which is ordered out of the factory, and again, we've got this COVID thing going on, so it's difficult to nail it down, but I would say you're 4 months, 5 months out.
And option two, then the one that is already built?
So what has to happen if you guys choose to buy that machine, then, and Caterpillar doesn't do this, but you will have been the third person that I've sold one of these graders to. There was 9 of them sitting on the ground. They've actually agreed to bring them back into the factory to do a couple things. And one of the things you guys need on this grader is a snow wing ready package. So they've agreed to bring the machine back into the factory, put it back in the assembly line to install this particular thing that you need that would be very expensive for us to do, someone else to do after the fact. They have to secure those parts and pieces, which is gonna take about 2 weeks or so. Then they've gotta put them on and ship the machine. So it's still conceivably, and then we've gotta get stuff from Craig. I mean, the wing stuff comes out of Canada from Craig Manufacturing, and that's a month out. So I'm thinking we're still a month or 2 out before you're gonna see that machine.
So is Caterpillar expecting an additional cost to be added onto this price, or no, they're holding the trade? So you bring it back into the factory, you're gonna do those things, and you're holding to the number. Okay, even better. So I suppose the financing thing of this comes then when we take delivery, you expect a check. If we're gonna, I've looked at this, I don't know if everybody has looked at it.
So typically the way Milton Cat works, we invoice you a week to 2 weeks after we deliver the machine. You won't, and I shouldn't say this because it's on TV, but you won't get a phone call for probably 90 days saying where is the money. I mean, it's just the way. Now we're not doing that with a construction company, but a governmental agency. We know the money's good. We know that. So we don't chase you for money. So conceivably, it could be 30 days, 45 days before you pay for the machine after we deliver it.
Well, I know we haven't gotten that far yet, but it looks like that we're able to secure financing cheaper than Caterpillar, okay? So,
It would still be nice, when's our second tax payment due this year? November?
yeah, I think so.
And the only reason I'm mentioning that is it's not good to have big payments land right with the first payment, because that's usually we're already in the hole. It's better if we can time it for the second payment.
Well, that's a discussion for us and the bank, because we could potentially arrange for no payment until next year.
Which, that would be a give me, but they're gonna.
No, they'll charge us interest.
If we take the loan out, what'd you say, anticipated delivery November?
November.
Okay, and that would work, because the bank, we borrow the money, Steve comes in with the dough, our payment's gonna be due November, a year from November, and you want it to come around the second payment so that the kitty's got some money in it.
Well, but I don't think the FY 2021 anticipated any payment at all.
No, but we'll be in the next year's budget.
Well, you'd have to be.
Regardless of the year, you don't want big truck and equipment payments to come due on top of the first payment
No, I get that.
installment.
Do you have that schedule, Brandon, about whatever all we're paying for? Were you anticipated paying for the first payment of this grader after July 1st of 21?
Yeah, I have a whole
Okay.
slideshow on financing.
Good. So, let's kind of sort out then where we're at with the whole grader, and then I think he's worked out some financing. It's obvious that the trade price is well under the authorization of the voters, okay? Somebody said 240,000. It's come in at either 155 or 160, but maybe we should move, although Brandon, one of your proposals is to outright pay for the warranty.
Yeah.
We're looking, I don't know what the rest, let me just stick a finger up in the air to see what the board feels about this. On the third page into this, it goes over the options, which are the warranties. The one that we're dealing with, the one that we own right now had a 5-year, 5,000 hour warranty. It's beyond 5,000 hours right now. And we have a list here of either number 1 or number 2, and they tell you how much the warranty is for the years. Everybody can read that. There's significant difference between 5 and 7 years. What, $11,000? But I'd like to know what the board feels about, is that transferable to owners?
It is transferable, and what it's gonna do is it's actually gonna give you the option of trading at 5 years, trading in the machine with 2 years of warranty still on it, which is gonna increase its trade value because it is transferable. Or decide at that point, we wanna go 7 years, and you have
Right.
you have that warranty. It just makes logical sense. It gives you the option to do it at 5 if you want. It's gonna have a higher resale value because you have the warranty, or you retain it for 7 years and it's still covered under the warranty.
Right. So we're looking at the maximum, what we're talking about here, even if, let me ask you, that is my feeling. When I saw this at the very beginning, I said, in the future, select boards could make a decision whether or not they wanted to trade it at 5 years or not, and they still had 2 more years of warranty on it not to. It's a good business decision to keep that. So the voters said 240, and if you add I'm gonna take the high one, but I'm not necessarily making a decision. At 160 plus the 30,500, we're talking about $190,500 with a full 7-year, 7,000 hour warranty.
Excuse me, it's 19,500 for 7 years.
You don't add the two together.
Okay, so it's not 30,000.
No.
That's an option for the maintenance program. If you
Oh,
look
I'm
at-
sorry.
If you
So,
look up top, you'll see the warranties. 5-year, 5,000 hour warranty is included, and then you have the
okay,
option to do
it's
a
not
6
under
year.
options. I gotta be corrected then. We're up under the first column.
Yeah.
You gotta go way up. Okay, sorry.
Has another, yeah.
So it turns out to be what, 179.5? Is that my
Right.
math right?
Yes.
Well, $60,000 less than what the town
Oh,
authorized.
yeah, that's maintenance.
For
Well, I'm
seven?
confused, going with what you said, 'cause the upper thing says warranty 5 years, 5,000, and it's included, and then down below it says 5 year, 5,000.
Maintenance.
But that's a
Maintenance.
maintenance, that's a
That's a
maintenance
maintenance
program.
service
Oh,
plan.
okay,
Service
okay, I'm
plan.
sorry.
It's a service plan, so it's different than what's about.
Had me going too, Joe.
No,
Yeah, I know,
that's
it's
the word
not, it's
maintenance.
different.
Yeah.
It's oil and all kinds of other
I
things.
got
It's
you.
on the scheduled maintenance.
Let's go around the table and just, if everybody's okay with 7 years and 7,000 more?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Everybody's okay, Joey?
Yeah.
It's a decision for a future select board to make, whether or not they trade it or not. The
I-
warranty
I've
carries,
just been on the other side of the business, not in equipment, but in something similar, and I know these warranties would not be sold if they weren't money makers most of the time, so.
It's a gamble.
Yeah, it is a gamble. So do you wanna gamble for 20 grand, or do you not want to gamble for 20 grand? That's really,
I think with this unit, the way the electric switches are on the units and everything now with joystick and everything and no steering wheel, I think it's probably for 7 years, you just do the division, it's like $2,000 insurance
Yeah.
for the year. Maybe a little bit more, 3,000, 2,500.
yeah, so maybe you don't have bad luck, maybe you do. But I think if it was your machine or my machine, maybe it would be, no offense to the guys that run it, but I know how work trucks and work rigs are. You get in it, you run the thing, you park it, and you're probably gonna have full throttle. So if it breaks, which is likely, it's a good idea to have a warranty.
Yep.
And if we
All I
don't-
can say is this, our present grader that we had blew the transmission. It went to Milton Cat and they fixed it and we didn't get a bill. And that's about all you need to say.
What was the cost of that repair?
I think it touched off at 16 or 17,000, didn't it?
It was just one, yeah.
So,
So knocks out the cost of that warranty.
And there's been a lot
You
of
know,
other
that
repairs.
system go, and you're talking
Yeah.
4 or 5 grand,
It-
Jeff, am I off on that?
well, it's $1,000 just to get them to come
Yeah.
about, so, whatever.
And if we dump it in 5 years, that little bit of extra money probably will be
You're gonna get all that
recouped and
money back.
traded.
Absolutely.
Won't hurt you.
I have no problem.
Is there a motion to, well, okay, now let's go to the option number 1 or number 2. What is everybody's feeling about either getting one built or accepting the one that's already in and it's gonna go back to the factory?
Option two.
Yeah, these guys
Two.
want to.
As long as we don't have to drive it up from Brazil.
Now, you could ride on the barge if you wanted to.
Is there a, let's sort this out now, then, and then we can worry about the financing in a minute. Is there a motion on the floor to accept the bid from Caterpillar on option number 2 for a price not to exceed $160,000 for the net cost trade and an additional $19,500 for a 7-year, 7,000-hour warranty?
So moved.
Is there a-
Second.
Okay, wait, you're gonna have to repeat that motion.
I cheat.
I got as far as to accept.
He said yes, you said
Option
second.
two.
Get that
I know, I got the so moved in a second.
Just take a pick.
Just make it.
It was to accept the bid from Caterpillar,
On option two.
option 2, at a cost not to exceed $160,000 net trade.
Wait a minute,
Yep.
160,000 net trade,
Yep.
okay,
With an additional $19,500, 7-year, 7,000-hour warranty.
okay. Thank you.
And it was seconded by John.
Okay.
Any discussion?
The other option for the warranty comes, or for the maintenance comes after this?
Well, would we like to have discussion about the service plan?
Probably should, right?
Yeah.
Okay?
What's
Well,
it gonna cost us to have somebody?
Then let's hold on, we're gonna have discussion about that in the middle of this. Go ahead.
What's it gonna cost to have somebody, Jeff, do you know, typically would we pay somebody to come out and do the maintenance like at our shop, or would we have to get it up to you guys? or-
So this covers us coming to you and doing every service that's required per the manual. Now, it's not adding windshield wash fluid, changing windshield wiper blades, checking the fuel, greasing in, that sort of thing. But in the past, you guys have always done the service. We've never serviced it, other than I think we may have done one big service or something for you.
This last December, just before the warranty ran out,
Yeah.
you guys come down and do what's they call it a $5,000
Joey, to answer, I guess, answer it easier, if you were to call us and say, do all of the services just on a as-call basis, it's gonna cost you more than this. But if you did them yourself, then it's definitely not gonna cost you.
Well, my thought is this, having worked on stuff too, people who bring their cars into a dealership all the time with their extended warranties, they got our eyes on it more often, so if something's failing, we're catching it, it's getting covered in the warranty before it's a major problem. I think it's a good idea to have somebody who looks at these all the time working on it, if we're gonna spend this kind of money. Be it for either 5 years or 7 years or what.
Is it, let me ask you a question, Jeff, is it $30,000 even more than the 19,000, or is the 30,000 included in the?
No, so the warranty is totally separate from the service.
Okay, so to do the service for 7 years, it is $30,500, added on to the 179. Did you understand where I was going?
And that does include all fluids and those things?
Anything that's in the back of the book that says do this at 1,000 hours is done. If it says do it at 2,000 hours, it's done.
Just as a reference point, I think it was $5,400. I'm throwing it out there. I think it was $5,400 for them to come and do a 2,500-hour service. So that was one service. It was everything. That's the big one at that time. Now the hours have changed, but that was all the fluids, all the rear ends, differentials, everything was done, everything was tested, torqued.
And another aspect of that is that if we have them do it, there's no question about, we didn't do this, we didn't do that, therefore it's not covered under the warranty.
Well, it is gonna use all cat oil and everything. Everything's gonna be
And the
black.
oils can be tested when they need to be.
I think they do it all. And they take it away. They take the oil away.
Yeah.
There's some fee, there's all kinds of fees on that today for everyone, all of them.
That also does include, so with the tier 4 stuff now, it's 1,000 hours, but this does include oil samples at every 250 hours, so you get kits that, but we don't come and do it, you guys do it, and what it does is it gives you a baseline on everything, so you can track for contamination and all that sort of stuff, so because you're in, you'd be in this program, you would actually get those to do.
And those sample jars are included in the price?
Yes.
So it's $80 just for sample jars, isn't it?
Yeah.
If we would do it ourselves. Every 250 hours.
What is the board's feeling about the service? Do you sell a lot of these, Jeff, the service contracts?
We do more for contractors than we do for governmental agencies, because a lot of contractors don't have mechanics. They have operators and their equipment's bouncing all over the place.
So you do more for contractors?
Yeah,
A service contract? So it's not unusual.
it's not unusual.
What's the board's feeling about
We
it?
don't have a mechanic either.
I know that.
I think you go with a 5,000-hour maintenance and go with a full 7-year warranty. Because if you dump it after 5 years,
That's a good point.
That is not transferable. So if you did the
Right.
service plan,
And you
and
could probably add on to if you wanted to on
you
that.
could. That's easy to add on, whereas the warranty is more difficult.
Don't you guys call like the cars all the time? You're getting a phone call every day. You want to extend your one car's warranty? I mean, maybe the town will get those. I don't know.
I can hear though a question coming, though after that, they'll say, well, why didn't you go from another 2,000 on? I'm not convinced that this will be traded 5 years, because something else may come up.
But you could add it. It's something,
Add what?
you could add those services.
Oh, a service
in
contract?
5 years, you could extend that service contract.
yeah, bump it to 7.
We
So
can't,
that's
we
not-
can't transfer it, so it's not worth anything. If you do decide to get rid of it 5 or 6 years, you're losing that much money.
But at 5-year mark, you can call up and say, hey, I want to extend this, and you.
Right. But just to understand, it's not gonna cost the difference between
No,
what 5
right.
and 7 is, because when you do it up front, you're actually pre-purchasing your oil, your filters at today's price versus tomorrow's price. So you're
Can you mute
purchasing
that?
labor.
Brandon, please. So you're saying that the difference won't be 11,000, it would be more like maybe 15,000.
Right.
That's a consideration.
I still think you'd go with a 5-year maintenance program and 7-year warranty.
Concur.
Everybody okay with that?
I'm gonna go with Joey on this one. He's the one that has the experience in these shops.
So
doing this stuff,
Brandon, can you, okay, before us, somebody needs to amend the motion that's on the floor. The motion that's on the floor, and I'll try to recap this, is to approve the purchase of the Caterpillar bid number 2 for a cost not to exceed $160,000 with an added $19,500 for warranty. Now I want an amendment that says in addition to all that, an additional $19,500 for a 5-year, 5,000-hour service maintenance program.
I amend the motion, the original motion to include the 5-year maintenance program at $19,500. And that sets the cost not to exceed $199,000.
Yes.
Seconder concurs.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded and amended. Did everybody follow what it said, so I don't have to repeat myself? Did you get that for the minutes? Okay. Any other discussion on the complete purchase trade, option number 2, the anticipated date, somewhere in November? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, do you want to speak about the finance options now, as far as bank payback, or do you want, it's already 10 after 8 and we haven't even, we've got to get through a few other things. Do you want to speak on that, Brandon, now, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, I can get through it pretty quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So Steve and I talked about this a little bit, and then I have another recommendation for the board. We have 3 different options. The first was to go with Caterpillar Financial for 5 to 7 years. The second was to go with our own bank, People's Bank, for the total cost of the motor grader with a 7-year warranty. And then the third was to open a loan with People's Bank for the total cost of the machine only and pay the cost of the warranty up front. Steve, are you on the line?
I think you might have muted everybody a minute ago. And bear with us, Brandon, because we added, so it's up to $199,000, so
Yes.
Yes, I'm on the line.
that wasn't factored into your equation yet.
So Steve, they just added on 19,500 additional for the maintenance program on top of the 19,500 for the warranty. Do you think that we should still pay the 19,500 for the warranty, and should we pay another 19,500 for the maintenance package up front? Or
Yeah,
what's your feeling on that?
I think we have the option to do either.
Okay.
My sense would be that we pay them both up front. They are prepaid contracts for over the course of 5 or 7 years. We can book them as a prepaid expense and expense them out to the budget over the course of 5 years or 7 years, as the case may be, and avoid paying interest on both of those expenses. We would just borrow the amount of the purchase for the vehicle of the $160,000.
So we have a couple of different options here. I think after I reviewed the interest rate and the payment options, we could either finance it for 7 years, or we could finance it for 5 years. For 7 years, it would be at 2.55% interest. For 5 years, it would be at 2.35% interest. The total interest paid over 5 years is $11,280. The total interest paid over 7 years is $15,040. If we go this way, and we only finance $115,000, which we would use our FY20 surplus to offset the amount that we're paying, we would actually only pay $7,000.97 in interest. So my recommendation is to use $45,000 from the FY20 surplus as a down payment for the motor grader, and then take out a loan for $115,000 from People's Bank for 5 years. What that would do is save us $8,039 in interest, and then, as Steve just said, we pay for the maintenance program and the warranty up front, with a total savings of, actually would be plus the maintenance program, so we'd save around $11,000 in interest if we went this route.
Did everybody follow that?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any comments about that?
only that, we don't have a line item in our current budget to pay for the 7 years, so it's gotta come from somewhere.
Yes. But when I, when I first got this information a little bit, and not specifically, but, Steve, are you still on the line?
Yes.
I follow your advice more than not. And one of the most important things that I learned was that you don't make a decision on the night that you drop the information. And this to me is enough information where we're taking money out of FY20 surplus, a considerable amount, where I'm not sure yet, when I just learned that amount right now. So I don't know what else is to be bought, and I don't know the budget implications that are coming up. I do know that $93,000, which is the audited surplus out of highway at the end of last year, is not good for me either, because it signals that either we're not spending as much as we budget in an annual operating budget, or it needs to be moved into, and not that particular money, but we need to do a more thoughtful approach to buying these larger things in a reserve account measure, but not from getting this much money left over year after year in an annual operating thing. So is everybody following where I was on that? Because I don't know, because we're gonna take half of the FY20 surplus and use it as a down payment for a new grader.
In order to save a little over $11,000 in interest.
Yep.
I'm confused on paying for the 7-year, $7,000 warranty up front and charge it to highway over 7 years. Steve, are we talking about financing it ourselves? How do we pay for something? I mean, they're gonna expect to see the $19,500 immediately.
Right, essentially that's what a prepaid expense is. I mean, in this case, we're prepaying for 5 years of service or 7 years of service. So we are exchanging cash for another asset that is expensed only year by year by year. So we will only charge 1/5 or 1/7 of the cost of those to this year's budget, and yes, that would be a bit of an overrun. And the rest of it gets booked as a prepaid expense. And every year, until the contract runs out, a portion of that gets expensed to future budgets. And presumably, we will, beginning in the next budget process, 2022, we will actually budget for those expenses.
That's the reason he's the treasurer.
What does, Steve, what does the what does the capital payment schedule look like? Are there something that's going to come off, or is it getting crowded, or?
Look at the end of section 7.
So we're in a couple of years, 4 years.
Where are we at?
Yeah,
The Excel sheet,
I
yeah.
don't have the schedule in front of me. I didn't print the packet because it was like 152 pages long. But there's not a whole lot that's currently outstanding for debt. What I haven't seen, even if it exists, is any sort of a future plan for fire, highway, police purchases. So I'm not sure that if there is a plan that we have, I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on how this would affect other priorities or other future purchases.
Right.
That plan exists, I think it even goes out to 2030.
Yeah, I think it does, but periodically it gets broken into, which
Yeah.
upsets the apple cart.
Yep.
So we all of a sudden feel the urge to put an article on and then burn up another 300,000. What is in the, does anybody have the answer to this? What is in the highway reserve right now for equipment? Is there a dollar amount?
Brandon and I checked that, because Brandon asked a question whether we could pay for the entire thing right now. And the answer was no, and.
I don't like interest, I'm sorry.
I don't remember the exact balance, but it was significantly less than $160,000.
I think it was about $35,000 short, so.
But does the dump truck purchase also come in?
$75,000 is coming out of that for the dump truck already.
Okay.
The 40 from the sale of the old dump truck and then 35 more.
And that's why it falls significantly short, because we're gonna take $75,000 out of it for the other truck.
Yes. Thank you. What does the board think about the proposal that's on the screen? Where you use, now bear in mind, I don't know what's coming up under this budget process, and the 93,000 will be taken up at some moment. What it gets allocated to, I don't know. So what Brandon is saying is that, 48,000 will be left over going in for a decision coming up on the budget.
I don't think anything that we're gonna be using it for will be, I don't believe we'll be using it for anything that collects interest. This collects interest, and in order to save on interest, that's why I recommend that we use the 45,000 for this. We're talking about around $11,500 here, and interest is, there's no purpose of it if we can save it. Basically, it's just you're giving money away. So,
I mean, even if you still do that, and the dump truck will still have some in there, not a lot.
Does the, but the number that you just disclosed right here did not take into consideration that we bought the service plan for $19,500. So while you were paying for the warranty on that, it's also, there's another $19,000.
I think he did.
Yeah,
It's
we-
in that screen right there?
it didn't take into consideration the savings. So now we're talking about around $11,500.
No, I'm talking about payment. So what John said is right. So if you only take a $115,000 loan, you're gonna have to come up with
No,
$80,000 in cash. Cause the bill just came up to $199,000.
the other 40 Steve just discussed. We're gonna be. Steve, can you explain that one more time?
Well, you're trading cash for a prepaid expense. So Dave, you're right. In terms of a cash outlay, we're going to have to purchase the two, the warranty and the maintenance agreement, and pay out the $45,000 that we're using from the highway surplus. We're not going to charge all of that $85,000 as an expense in the budget, but we are going to pay out $85,000 worth of cash.
Correct. And that's what I wonder about.
So you're Steve, are you gonna be taking it from the, fund balance?
The reserve.
That was broken up, I couldn't hear it.
Is it by the audited surplus fund balance, or is it by a reserve account, right? Is that where you're going? Or the loan? See, I'm looking at a sheet now that says a loan for a $115 from People's Bank. But Caterpillar is going to have to be paid $199 on the date of delivery. So the balance here is $84,000 in cash coming from somewhere, our accounts.
But then we get that money back, or half of that money back, by expensing it out to the highway budget for 5 to 7 years. And we're putting the $45,000 down in order to save $11,000 in interest.
No, I get all that, Brandon. What I'm saying is the bill is due and it's gonna be paid. If we're only borrowing the $115, we have to write a check out of somewhere, somebody's account, from a highway, $84,000 to Caterpillar.
Yep.
That is correct. And this is the first I've heard of the proposal to borrow only 115 and use 45 of the highway surplus. So, but you're right, David. We'll have to come up with $84,000 of our own cash. It won't be all. We're not going to charge all that to the budget as an expense. We are going to charge the $45,000 out to the budget as an expense. because that's the way it's going to work. And maybe it's important for you to know this and understand this. What we will do is expense that $45,000 in this year. We will run a $45,000 highway fund deficit this year, which will be offset by the accumulated surplus from last year.
And then get paid back $7,000 something a year for the next 5 or 7 years.
I would recommend
Plus
5
we'll run,
years.
plus we'll run about a $7,000 deficit because we'll have to charge the first year of those prepaid items off.
Were you aware, Steve, on this of the, because it just happened tonight, where the service plan got talked about. The regular warranty for the unit was kind of always in the thinking, but the service plan was an additional $19,500, you know, to change the oils and the filters and whatnot for the term. That's an added cost of $19,500. So that was beyond the warranty.
Right, and that wasn't an expense I was aware of.
Yeah, well, it came up tonight, so it wasn't for me either, but, I just don't wanna be short. Can we, is it okay if we take up this financing discussion at the next meeting?
I agree.
We've just bought it, and now we're gonna figure out what to do with it. How's that? It's 8:25.
Absolutely.
That's good. And just so you know, Brandon, and Steve, I know that you guys have already done preliminary work, and it's cheaper to do People's Bank and a combination of ours. What that combination will look like is open, but it is cheaper to do ourselves rather than go through Cat Financial.
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Everybody okay with that? We're gonna put it on for the 21st to try to finish up the financing, okay? Let's
Thanks
move.
again.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you,
Jeff.
Steve. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Let's go to the salt shed. We're gonna go to the salt shed. Do you need to be on? Okay. Brandon, can you, or John, or somebody can take up on the salt shed, please?
Alright, so on August 6, 2020, we advertised a request for a proposal to fabricate and install an overhead protection system on the town salt shed. That's located over at the highway garage. Excuse me, sorry. On August 18th, we held a pre-bid conference. We did not have any agenda to distribute on this one, and then we did a bid opening yesterday. Paul and I did the bid opening. My wife was present as well. We received 3 bids. All bids were qualified, so everybody filled the bid sheet completely. You can see attachment A for the salt shed RFP itself, and if you want to pull out the drawings, those are included. You have 2 sheets there for the drawings. Attachment B is the bid opening, and attachment C is the financial analysis. Basically what it boils down to is we have 3 bids here, all the same bids, but 3 different prices. We have the highest bidder at $21,860, $1,950 for option 1, and $1,000 for option 2. And then we have our middle bidder, Luco LLC, $18,713. Option 1 is $3,500. Option 2 is $2,100. And then we have our low bidder, which is Griffin Construction, $12,476. Option 1, $756, and option 2, $412. I called each of them today, and I asked them the same questions. First, I reviewed each of them on Google and so forth, and all 3 of them have really good reviews. I didn't find anything negative. I think I found one thing negative from 7 years ago on one of them, but nothing to be alarmed about. Griffin Construction, I asked them, did you read the RFP completely prior to submitting the bid? And actually all of them were asked that question, and all of them confirmed. Griffin Construction said they can have the project done no later than November 1st. Luco said they could have it done in the middle of October. And then Daniel stated they could have it done no later than October 31st. So that's basically where we sit with the salt shed roof. I think there's some debate on whether or not this spec is right for our salt shed. So I'm gonna let you guys take it from here.
That's a fair statement. So when you had a conversation with all three, they're all the same, the task?
Is all the same.
Okay, so so the materials they were using were all the same, the labor is the 2-to-1 difference?
I'm not sure.
The construction for all three was identical?
I did not, well, yes, the construction is based on the RFBs
Right.
sent out to everybody. I did not do a cost estimate review of this to determine how much labor should be put into it and so forth. I don't know why there's such a big gap between Daniel's construction and Griffin construction. It's about a $10,000 difference. I do know that both of them had good reviews on roofs, and I didn't see any negative comments, so.
Has everybody had a chance to see the salt shed? It's a mess. And, you know, my preliminary thought was that the ceiling was gonna be cut out. I got corrected today because apparently it's not going to be, it's just gonna be braced up
Sort of like the state does
with some
highway.
I-beam thing. And my immediate reaction to that was I've driven loaders and everything for 50 years, and at midnight when I'm half asleep, I am gonna hit that. So I didn't really kind of like having a pole inside something like that because I'd be guilty of the same thing. This has got to be fixed, and I'm a little concerned about the specs when it said initially that the engineer did it saying that the roof was only going to last 4 years. That wasn't part of my thinking at all. But what does the board want to do with this? It needs to be corrected. It's actually a significant safety hazard for the highway, and this could easily qualify either for the use of the rainy day funds or the surplus or anything. But there's a significant difference in the bids, and what would the board like to do?
Can we just briefly discuss the two options? Personal opinion, and we didn't specify what kind of paint. Most paints will not hold up in that environment, period.
Most what, paint?
Paint.
Okay.
I mean, there's Tenemic paint, which is probably the best you can do.
Yep.
And it still isn't going to last, sitting immersed in salt.
Yep.
So it truly, if we don't do anything to it, even if you bought pickled steel, I think the painting and the caps are a waste of money.
I talked about the engineer drawn up, I didn't really put on this.
Does everybody understand that what's gonna happen with the construction? There's gonna be a roof over the top of this, they're not gonna dump up on the top anymore, it's gonna come down
Right.
on the grade and dump and then push in. So the days of dumping up on top of the bank are over, and the roof. So there's gonna be a truss roof. There's not gonna be a truss roof?
No.
All it's gonna be is a plate of steel,
Right.
wood trusses underneath,
Concrete.
and it's gonna jack up and hold the whole ceiling.
Okay, so we're not gonna see any roofing, they're gonna use the existing cement.
Correct, it's
Right.
gonna hold, it's gonna stabilize the existing cement.
So it
To
can't
cut the
collapse
whole
on
roof,
top
to
of
cut
us.
the whole roof and put in trusses and put on a peaked roof was gonna be a phenomenal amount of money. And our plan
Oh, I know all about that.
Our plan 2 years ago was to start applying for grants for a new salt shed, which we did last year, and we didn't get it, but that was the plan for the next 5 years, and that's why the engineer said, this is a 5-year plan.
So is this just gonna gonna shovel water right in there? Is it gonna be like a pool? Obviously it's not gonna press up. I don't know how thick that cement is, but I'm thinking it might be 12-inch.
It's not gonna push the cement at all, it's just gonna be there, make sure the roof doesn't cave in on us.
Yeah.
That's it. It's not meant to,
So, but it's all like broken and everything, so now when it rains, it's gonna come in the salt.
we're gonna probably end up putting a rubber membrane or something on top, some kind of sealer on top of it eventually, I'm gonna guess. I mean, water pours in now because of that roof. There's a
Yeah.
little wooden roof
Oh.
that is leaking next to it, so.
Oh, I'm getting it. I'm wondering about the spec right now, why it wasn't a truss, but that's just me.
Because of the expense.
Yeah, but Yeah, I understand that. It just, it's hard because it's like, if it was my home or something, it's like, I don't want to spend a bunch of money and turn around in 5 years and then have to spend a whole bunch more money. No one, if I'm going to put something on, I want to put something on. I want to do something. I want to.
This, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt, this salt shed is contaminating the groundwater.
No, I
Even if we put a truss roof on it, it's still gonna contaminate the
Well,
groundwater.
we haven't gone that far yet. We have no testing to prove that. I don't wanna get into a
We already drove it
speculation.
out from there.
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with where that salt shed is there now.
Well,
It was close to
Bob,
the road.
my question is, what is, obviously, the problem is we need to do something now because it is a safety hazard. There's no
Yes.
doubt.
Yes.
But where are we with the grant and the money and maybe eventually doing that? Was that 4 or 5 years out?
We're gonna apply, the plan was 2 years ago, we were gonna apply every year until we got it.
Okay.
At the 5 or 6 year mark, if we didn't get it, we're gonna have to figure out what to do about a new salt shed. This structure isn't gonna expire in 4 years or 5 years.
Right.
This thing could work for 7 years, I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
The window he was given was, we're trying to get a grant,
it's not going to go another winter.
not the way it is.
No.
Go ahead, John.
Hindsight's always 20/20. I really wish that we had just replaced the panel that's failed. But
Yeah, right.
now we're in a situation now, winter's approaching. I think we need to go in the low bidder, make
Yeah.
the repairer's design,
Just,
and
Yeah.
hope it lasts till we can get a grant. It should.
What does the board wanna do? Get it done tonight, or what?
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
get on this guy's schedule.
Let's see what everybody wants.
Is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion that we award the project to Griffin Construction for a sum not to exceed $17,476.
Wait,
Not that
Oh.
much.
Yeah.
We gotta be lower than that, John.
Griffin's like 12, 4, 6, 7, 6.
13.
Wait a minute, I called you today, and you said that was a 7.
no, it's a 2.
It's a 12?
Yes.
13,644, John, it's over on the big page. Open it up.
That's with the options.
Open this.
I couldn't read
That's-
it.
Yeah, no, open this one up on your book, in your booklet.
Yeah, that's with the options.
Yep.
Okay, I must have
Sorry, John.
misunderstood you. I think you would cost differential.
Yes. Almost double.
12,476.
Yeah, but you gotta go to the total, right?
If you go,
Do you include option one
No,
and two or not?
never mind the option.
No options. With no options.
Somebody can amend it with
You-
options if you so choose.
You have, when you called these companies, all of them, they've all put up like $2 million liability, they're all insured?
I did not check on the insurance. If you wanna put something in the motion,
Yes.
subject to approval.
I do. I don't know what anyone else feels, but I don't want anybody working in there that's not insured.
I need the spec.
Brandon, can you check that against the actual bid opening? That number could be a 7 or a 2 in the handwriting.
I called them today and talked to all three of them,
Okay,
to make sure they read it.
that's what I was looking at right there.
Yeah,
If it's a 2, that's fine, but it's just,
yeah, it's a 2, so a little.
okay, it looks a little more like a 2 than the copy.
Could you make a motion, John, for 12,476 with no options?
Yep.
Is there a second to the motion?
Was there,
It's to award to Griffin Construction for a price not to exceed $12,476. Good second, yes.
there was, Brandon was suggesting subject to.
We haven't got that far yet, yes.
Do you want that part of the motion?
Yeah,
or-
are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Subject to, proof of insurance liability, certificate of insurance being forwarded to the town prior to construction. Any discussion on the bid? Low bid? All those in favor?
I still think we ought to do what John said, pull the whole cap off there and fix it once, but
I do too.
Who seconded the motion?
Joey, I'm with that too, but it's just me, I trust it, and then that thing would outlive us.
It's hard,
So,
we're sitting on $93,000 in surplus, how can we, this is a perfect place to spend it.
It just got eaten up, so with like
Not yet,
that,
it didn't.
not yet.
We have
Well,
a
we can
rainy
still
day
finance
account.
it.
This would
Finance it.
be considered a rainy day
But
situation.
it's kinda late, it's kinda late in the season to do to redo it and say we wanna
Absolutely,
trust
late in
it,
the season.
because
To
it
get it
wouldn't
done
get done
before.
until like December or something, to put another RFP out.
We're not gonna have snow until February.
Motion's on the floor to accept Griffin on a low bid at the price not to exceed $12,476 with the proper insurance to be given to the town manager, liability and certificate of insurance. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Nay?
I,
Are you,
I'm sorry.
is that an aye or a nay?
no, I'm sorry, I'm eyeing,
You're
but
nay.
yes, I'm for it, yes.
You're for it.
Yes.
So what is the final count?
4-1.
4-1. I said anything. All those in favor say aye.
Apologize.
Opposed? Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Good. Thank you.
My mind
Let
was
us-
in slow-mo.
Let us go to noise, number 9, noise ordinance. Coming from the planning commission.
So yeah, the planning commission and I have been working on this interim bylaw for noise performance standards, and in response to the many complaints that I've had about noise violations in the town. And like I said, within the planning commission, we decided to adopt the information, the thing here in the memo that I just made for the amendment. Basically, we're requesting, and the planning commission is requesting to amend section 6.13B1A of the Weathersfield town bylaws, in which a person conducting sound measurement shall have been trained in techniques and principles of sound measuring equipment and instrumentation, is stricken, and should place with the town manager, land use administrator, town health officer, Weathersfield police officer, constable, deputies, or other town enforcement officer is authorized to conduct sound measurement. This was put to a planning commission vote at the last meeting, or the meeting last meeting.
Yeah.
And it passed, and so we're passing it to the select board to adopt this as an interim bylaw.
So help me out, Brandon, on this. What is the procedure to do that? Do we need to, my recommendation is when you get something for the first time, you don't just like act on it, but it might take a meeting or 2, or maybe even 3 to actually have it where you actually vote on it at this level.
Yeah.
It's not like one and done, that's for sure, because it's up for consideration right now, and
It can be adopted right now.
Yep.
Yes, it can.
You can,
As an interim bylaw.
and that's the reason we put it forward. It's not, it's an interim bylaw. You have did you put in the state regulations for that in there too?
And Chris, I believe those gentlemen over there were in support of this,
They were, yeah,
and
both,
then we have,
both of them, and we have 2 citizens over here that were also in support of it.
I'm not looking for support or non-support, but I'm looking for a procedure, and I've got to tell you, I've sat here a long time, and it'd be new to me to have something taken up and immediately acted on the first night of proposal, whether it came out of the planning board or not. You need time to read it and then go over it, which I didn't, and then usually you can put a change of words in or not, or it's opportunity for time.
Well,
You guys are on the planning board, so you already know and you've been through it.
No,
So
no,
in fairness to like 3 guys that didn't know.
Totally, absolutely. And that's why I was asking Chris if he, I apologize for, if I can talk here. I asked him if he had the state statute that indicated that you could do this with an interim bylaw, and how the interim bylaws work versus a regular.
But we do have a bylaw now.
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem for me.
No,
So we have a
Hold
bylaw
on.
now,
That's not
and you want to
enforceable.
change a few words.
So,
Well, no, let me finish.
Yep.
You want to change a few words. So we have an existing thing that's already been adopted through a process, which is 3 meetings, and then it either gets enacted by us or voted on by the people. So you're looking to change some words in an already existing document under the zoning bylaws. Yes.
okay, so let me ask this question. We already have a bylaw, the bylaw's already there.
Yeah.
Is it an enforceable bylaw?
No,
Why is it not enforceable?
because you left nobody qualified to take that bylaw and enforce it.
Okay,
The language in this, where a person conducting sound measurements, is language that is used to refute a notice of violation or something, or a civil matter to refute the evidence being presented. So this is like standard for like criminal court and
So
stuff like that.
what we found was that we have a bylaw, yes, that went through the normal, everything. We found it's an enforceable bylaw at this point. So what we could do to fix that in the interim is an interim bylaw.
I'm understanding all that, but it made it worse for me. Your answer made it worse for me.
No?
It would require a hearing for an enforcement change.
No.
For me, it would.
It doesn't.
I don't care what you just told me.
I'm gonna tell you what the statute says.
Well, I got the
if
chair,
read.
and I didn't recognize you. But it's true. And all things that come here to the board, when you have a document that is involved and it already has language in it, and you're trying to change the enforcement language in that document, for me, I've not been a part of just automatically saying, yeah, I feel good tonight, I'm gonna do it. There's a process, and it's not just one and done. And I know that you guys, all three of you, have lived you're going into the planning board, but I'm asking you to take those hats off right now and pretend you didn't get this information and hear me what I just said, which is, we have a policy, you're looking to change the policy. It happens to be in zoning about an enforcement issue. I don't think that you would bring it to another board and just say, here you go, we want to put some police in this now. Now, go ahead, Mike.
It is exactly what the statute for interim bylaw allows, is an amendment to existing language when it's needed. That's the purpose of interim bylaws. Read the statute.
I don't need to read it, you just added some interesting thing. When it's needed. I could say, I don't think it's needed. I like it the way it is. That's opportunity to have a discussion about it. You guys think that it does need to be changed. I'm not sure, because I haven't really read it, and I may say, I think it's already there, but you're not reading it correctly. That's for debate. Chris, did you have your hand up?
I did. I was listening to you and I forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, but I've done that more times than not. Paul, go ahead.
All right, so I just, thank you, I'll take my hat off from planning commission, but, so my question would be, what questions does the select board have based on this right now? I mean, from what you see right now, obviously you haven't had a lot of time to go over it. What questions do you have about sound, about what's happened in town, how you measure it, who can or whatever? If there's any questions, I personally would recommend that we ask those now. We also have people here in support of that, regardless of what side they're on, but I would recommend understanding maybe what their needs were. Obviously, you're the chair, you can make that decision, but I would start with that, we can figure that out at the end, but if there's any questions, I would say that we got some people here that probably could answer some of that.
I'm just simply saying that you're obviously dealing with somebody complaining about something.
Several.
And thinking that they can't get it enforced. No, I mean, why else would you put the language in here about police and other things, about going to the town manager and the health officer and other things in here? So you're looking for a venue to firm things up. I frankly don't know if it's a civil issue. I don't know.
It's a performance center, yeah, it's a civil issue.
But I'm just going down a road that I didn't know about. So I'm not taking a specific incident, but that's I guess what you guys are dealing with, a couple of complaints that you've got to fit something into. Go ahead.
What this, in my mind, is not necessarily going to fix everybody's problem. It's not necessarily going to take any complaints and then automatically make them completely valid and fix that problem. What it's going to allow is, right now, somebody complains, and I don't feel the town has the means to go out and figure out, is it even violating what we put down as a bylaw, as far as noise levels and that. So what this would do is not necessarily fix any civil stuff. It would, I mean, Chris could go out and measure, or whoever that we deem capable of measuring now could go out and measure and say, well, now that the numbers are fine. Then it becomes more of a civil thing. We do have numbers in our bylaw. We just don't have a good way or the right way of measuring. We don't have any way of measuring them, because we don't have the people to do that, and that's what we wanted this change. It's not gonna fix all the noise issues, it's gonna allow us to go out and investigate more.
The time that I don't know if it was last meeting or the meeting before, I did hear those people that were in support of something, and I don't know what the answer was, also understood that the noise could go away like tomorrow and then come back. So, and then it just could be like reoccurring, so that no matter what you do, I mean, I heard that too. So noise is hard, and so I don't know the answer. What's the rest of the board feel about, I guess they're asking for an amendment to approve the words for a change as an interim bylaw for this, whatever the number happens to be, I didn't read it. What, go ahead, John.
I think we have two choices. We go with the proposal, or we send Chris and every other person that's gonna try to enforce it away to audiology school or whatever it's called, so they know what they're doing. And then so it's not totally unenforceable, it's just practically non-enforceable.
Or a noise meter or something, right? I don't know what.
Well,
the noise meter.
Even if we had a noise meter, we wouldn't be able to do anything, because nobody's.
I read it, but I've kind of forgotten. Would it be allowed that the homeowner could have the instrument in his hand and that would work?
Yeah, under, in Red LaBear.
And that's the only way you're gonna
In Red LaBear, yeah.
catch people when they're being a nuisance.
But that opens a whole other question.
Well,
Like, are you acting on behalf of the town, or is it a civil issue? When you have a neighbor saying you're noisy and you're holding up some machine saying neighbor against neighbor, so the town isn't even there, it happens to be a town meter. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, like the citizen wouldn't get the town meter.
Well,
No, absolutely.
hold on, I'm sorry, I just wanted to verify and clarify, he asked a question about, or I'm sorry, John asked a question about the homeowner holding it and doing it. And you said, yes, to me, that's not how I read that. I read that as you,
Okay,
as.
so that's a no.
Well,
Okay.
I don't, I wanted to know where he said.
I was talking about the support for us to do it, because in regular bears, it was the homeowner's personal device. That was just to show that we don't need to have like this crazy ridiculous
Yeah,
standard.
no, right, yeah. This change would allow the people written in this,
Right, it would just be the enforcement,
Not
people
the-
that are
not the
charged with
landowners.
enforcement anyway
The
in town.
homeowner
I
would
mean, it's
not
their
be
job.
allowed
No.
to use the town's
No.
property.
No.
Yeah,
They
no.
could
Well,
use
that kinda
their,
makes sense.
they could use their own,
Right.
or rent one, or.
But could they use the town equipment to
No.
say
No,
that?
no.
Is
They
that-
cannot.
No.
What is, it's 10 of 9, what does the board wanna do with this? Do you wanna have a motion to allow this as an interim bylaw or not? And if so, put a motion on the floor.
So I make a motion that we accept this as an interim bylaw.
And so is there a number on, I don't wanna say this.
I know, sorry, yeah, that wasn't very,
Section 16.
what do we call it, Chris? What do we got here?
That's the performance standards for section 6.13B1A of the Weathersfield Town Bylaws.
So moved. Did you get that before us?
I'll second it.
Did
Now
you,
we can discuss it.
you're okay DeForest, you have the number? 613?
613B1A.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't
Yep.
very professional at the time.
A motion been made and seconded to amend section 6.13B1A of the Weathersfield, is it zoning bylaw?
Yes.
Yes.
In regard to noise,
Yes.
to an interim bylaw reflecting the new language dated 7/28/2020. Any discussion?
Yeah. How many separate complaints have you received, and about how many properties? Is all the
Obviously-
complaints coming from one property?
No,
No?
there's several properties. There's,
Several,
I'm trying to
three,
think on the.
several, 10?
I can think of 4 right off the top of my head.
Is there any other discussion?
I got something I'll add
Yes.
to it.
Go ahead.
You're trying not to
If I-
like this
if
guy,
I-
I see that.
If I so choose, yes, go ahead. Mr. Todd.
You're so
Tonight?
What's that?
Are you riding together tonight?
No.
No,
No. Go ahead.
this proposal is done, in concurrence with the state statute for interim zoning bylaws. It is an amendment to an existing bylaw. The only thing it changes is who can conduct the sound level test. It changes no other language in the bylaw at all. It's the only thing it does, because the current language, which was recommended by Gil Whittemore when he was on the planning commission, was put in there so that we wouldn't open this floodgate of, you know, Hatfields and McCoys type things. He felt that it needed to be strict so that there was a path that, you know, wasn't real easy to do. Well, this path doesn't make it that much easier, really. I mean, it makes it easier for somebody in the town to do it. Right now, somebody would have to be certified. We don't have anybody that's certified to use a sound meter.
Do you have a
It's all
question?
right.
Do you have a question, Joe, or not?
No.
No questions. Any other questions on the motion?
I do.
Yes, go ahead.
As an interim, it means it's temporary.
2 years.
2 years.
So we only have a short amount of time and then it goes away again.
Yes,
So
2 years.
I don't think that's been mentioned. You
Well,
talk
2
about
years-
interim,
2 years
which
is a
gives you
long
a
time, but I thought
shortened
it was long.
process.
Yep.
It gives you a shortened process so you can do it this way, but it is temporary.
And we will be looking at this more when we get to that section of the bylaws.
Is there any other discussion on the motion?
Who seconded the motion?
John?
John?
Motion been made and seconded to approve, to amend the Weathersfield zoning bylaw 6.13B1A in regards to sound, dated July 28th, 2020. And today, so it would be effective today's date, which is what, 9/8/2020. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. 3-2.
Who's
Okay. Let me, because the, without objection, I want to talk about this solar site before we get to Abbott, because it's 5 of 9. And I met with Ray today and I had a call with Joel from Norwich Solar. Has everybody had a chance to visit the garage site?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Are there any questions about the garage site when they moved the array? Remember we had a discrepancy with the Agency of Natural Resources. They moved the array away for some trees. They're gonna leave the trees, and is everybody okay with that? There is a design here, when you get a little bit deep into this, about where it's going to be proposed. My only question had to do with the Rick Butler residence, where he has use of some town land. I think he actually has a lease agreement, and where he could get that, I think it's like a 30-foot or 40-foot trailer out of there in case he had to. That's been corrected to my satisfaction, because there's going to be a road around the entire array to come around past where we have like sand or whatever, where those trees are. So that has been looked at. We do have a well from Bellevue, and that is also, the amount of footage is away from that. So are there any questions about the solar array site at the highway garage anymore?
I just want to make sure what I'm looking at here. So when you look at the array, you have the black dots and black line that are right around it. That's where the fence is?
It's a proposed fence if we so want one. I've been told we don't have to have one, but yes, that black dotted, and you can see that if you go over to the highway garage and then you look, you're gonna see proposed perimeter fence.
Right.
So we did negotiate where it's kind of like a joint use when we get into this, because if you look at where we dump sand and where the plows are, where the old buses were.
Yes.
At the end of the day, that's not gonna be encumbered. So it's just like a working area when this thing gets underway. So that will disappear, and then the immediate is where you just said where the black dotted line is for where the proposed fence.
Out at that other one though, where the white dots are, it says that there's a proposed silt fence.
That's the disturbed area.
Yes,
Yep.
During
so
construction.
only during construction.
Yep,
But there may be a silt fence out there during construction?
Yes.
yes.
And how long is construction?
I don't know. Joel, are you on the phone? Are you can you unmute him? Norwich Solar is on the phone.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, great. What, go ahead. Go ahead, Joel.
So, I can confirm that you're correct that the back dot is proposed fence. We have a number of installations where there aren't fences, so that is a possibility. And the black and white dot is the limit of disturbance, so that's just during construction. And typically construction, once it begins, takes on the order of, a couple of months. It's pretty quick.
So, so that was the question that Mike had. So do you think the entire, what do you think from the construction to the completion is? Is it 6 months or a year, or is it, what do you think?
So once we actively start building the array, that actually proceeds quite quickly. The active construction period is only a couple of months normally. We're still in the midst of permitting now, and that can take, an extended period of time, but obviously nothing's happening on site while that's occurring.
Yep. So are there any other permits? You already alleviated the A&R one, right, with the trees, with the, whatever the thing. Are there any other outstanding issues that you see with this site?
No, so A&R obviously had their issue with the bats. They, wanted some resolution of that. So once we get sort of sign off from you guys that what we proposed here is acceptable, then we see this being the resolution of anything else that's outstanding.
Yes. Good. Are there any questions for Joel? He is the president of Norwich Solar. Any questions at all?
Ray, this limited disturbance that's out there in your parking lot, that's not gonna affect you?
The only thing that's gonna affect us is during the time we have to haul sand, and I've already had assurances that we'll still be able to get in here to haul sand. They had to have it set them out all the way around the whole thing for area disturbance or use. They're not gonna use all of it, so they can work around us.
Okay.
And the fuel, we can get around and pull in there if we have to, we'll back up to the tank. It's not, for a couple months, it's not gonna kill us.
Here,
We've kicked this down the
No,
road.
I don't think there's anything else for us left to do, right? Brandon, you're all set. So we've signed the lease agreement with this. So we're satisfied with whatever is going on right now. So I don't know if you need an additional document, Joel, or whether it's all set. I don't think we need a motion or anything here. I think we've looked at the final map and we've accepted it. Do you need a motion to do that? Because I'm glad to take that up.
Yeah, we've already, as you noted, we already have the option agreement, and we've just provided an update in terms of the plan, so that you're aware in terms of the adjustments. So, and with your sort of review and approval tonight, then we're good.
Yep.
you
So,
want for-
yes, why don't we take a motion to approve the final map and siting of the, what do we wanna name this? The garage solar, site. I don't know if there's a formal name, but I'm certainly willing to listen to something.
Weathersfield Town Garage Solar Project.
Okay. Why don't we have a motion to finally accept the approval of the completed map by Norwich Solar so that they can get on with life and we can move on. It's off the table for us.
The revised date on this is 9/24/19, is that correct, Joel? That make that the correct?
Of the map.
I believe so, yeah. I'm looking at the draft that was sent over to you.
So,
But you can all get the, that's fine.
It says revised on 5/13/2020.
where do you see that?
I don't have that on this one.
Well, if he's got one, we'll do that. We'll do Brandon's. 5/20, May 20th of 2020.
Yes, it's the draft.
So,
There's another one.
did you make a motion? It's 9 o'clock, so we gotta get going.
Oh.
Yeah, we're close. I'm watching, I got 2 minutes.
Yeah, Mike, you've been looking at the
I
wrong
got
map.
5/13/2020.
So May 13th, 2020.
Yes.
Yeah, but there, in the bottom right-hand corner, the
Yeah.
There.
Okay, so moved,
Is there a second?
and that's under the revision date 5/13/2020.
The motion been made and seconded to approve the final mapping siting for Norwich Solar on the Weathersfield Town Highway Garage Solar Site dated May 13th, 2020. This completes the project as far as the town is concerned and let Norwich go forward. All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Motion to extend the meeting, how long you need?
15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Thank you very much.
Yep. I did have a talk with Joel today. He called me on the phone and asked the status of this and the transfer station site, and he offered to, we got together and the board is more than welcome to jump in on this, if you want to. I'll warn a meeting if we have to, but we need to go over that site to see where we're at with Norwich or DEC, and then so that's where that's at. So we haven't firmed up a date yet, but I want some of this stuff done with, just like we did, and that was a good job. Thank you for that, just now. It's gonna make the town $11,000 or $12,000, this solar array. Motion.
I made a
for-
motion to extend the meeting 15 minutes.
Oh, was there a second?
Yes.
Motion,
Or now.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. When Brandon and I get together, or Ray, or I'm not sure what, at the transfer station site, it was held up we have not signed that lease agreement yet, because we were a little bit concerned about digging holes and testing and whatnot. So I think we need to revisit that, but I think we need to have a meeting and then find out exactly where everybody's at with that, and then it's either gonna go forward or not, one or the other. So Brandon can forward us all information about that potential meeting. It's gonna happen within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Got it.
Can you guys,
Go ahead.
yeah, so I was actually I don't think that there's any adjustment between the plans that you just approved and what I sent over this afternoon. There were just additional details put on it, but the latest plan, I just checked, it had a revised on July 2020. If it's possible to reference that date instead. It's still the same layout. That's what I sent over this afternoon, the red and yellow squares. I also just had additional details on it, but I just wanted to make sure that we're referencing that one if possible.
What was the date, Joel? July what?
22nd.
9/2020. 7/9/2020.
Okay, thank you. I would like a correction, a motion to correct that previous motion of May 13th to amend it to July 9th, 2020.
So moved.
Is it okay? Who seconded it before? Was it me, John? Okay. Did you get that before us?
Change the date from May 13th, 2020 to July 9th.
Yeah, and it's a map furnished by Norwich Solar with that information on it. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Yep. Brandon, let me ask you a question. Is the intersection of Route 5 really, can we defer that, or would you just like to go ahead with that, or is that for information only, or what is that about?
So real quick, I'll just pull up the PowerPoint here, so that you can see it. We're talking about Thrasher Road and Route 5. When residents are taking a left or a right onto Route 5, you can't see to the left.
There's a hole, on the
so-
site right there.
What I'm requesting is to prepare a letter to the state, present it in the next select board meeting, determine whether or not the language is acceptable, and then sign off on it with me to send to the state, to fix it.
I'll make a motion to do that.
I'm not sure we need a motion. I think we just let him do it, or is that?
Oh, sure,
do you think it's
fine.
proper? It doesn't bother me.
Has anybody looked at a mirror on the other side? Would that help, do you know? No? Okay.
Yeah,
No, I've had-
John, Ray and I and everything, and
What
Yeah,
was the
it's like-
agreement, what'd you send to the state, I'm sorry?
I didn't send
Said
anything
he's
yet.
gonna-
I'm gonna draft a letter
Okay, there you go.
and then bring it.
Yep.
I would suggest that
Yep.
we add to that letter a request for a traffic study to lower the speed limit starting at Route 44A. To bring now it's 40, and it takes forever to get them to lower it. There's businesses, there's driveways in this intersection that are 40
Cool.
miles per hour.
School.
School.
I think that's a good idea, if you could lower it from 40 to 30, and then maybe even put a flashing light hanging across.
From what point to what point, or just?
44A to, and even the signage where it drops to 35 isn't right because they don't have the triangular one
Yeah.
warning you that it's gonna go down.
Right. I agree on that too, so. Trying to do
Okay.
that.
They'll never lower it to 30.
You've just got to go
We
ahead
could
and
try.
draft the state letter for the next meeting, right?
Yep.
I just thought that'd be easier to do.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
And when we looked at it, the town, we're gonna watch our snow pile, but we don't have any, we can't do anything about Route 5.
You can keep the grass cut there.
It is right now, but yeah.
Trim the grass down, it makes a big
Yeah,
difference.
but that was the absolute ideal conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can barely see cars.
you really have to.
No, there's a little pocket, and I've talked to residents on that road too after some of this, and they basically wait. And they can look down by the market and see that there's nothing coming, and they wait, they wait. Okay, there couldn't possibly have been anything there, and they go, so it needs to get looked at, so yes.
If we go back to 10, is it 10 or 11? 10. Up on the screen, we see a summary of what Brandon has gotten from the tax collector. Go ahead and take over, Brandon, for this.
So this first slide is just a summary of what we went over in the last meeting. To be clear, the points are: the purchase and sale agreement was signed with the intent of recovering delinquent taxes owed to the town. When the purchase and sale agreement was signed, the total amount of delinquent taxes owed on the Thrasher Road property was $86,000. Although not explicitly stated, the total delinquent taxes owed on the Jason Smith Road property was $15,846. And after we back out the appraised value of the 3-acre parcel and easement, the total delinquent taxes owed to date is $78,506.13. These taxes will continue to accumulate until either the taxes are paid in full, we accept the purchase and sale agreement, or that amount is abated by the Board of Abatement.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Under any financial circumstance that I've ever been involved with, you can't charge interest on interest or penalty. So what would be the amount when you say that an amount continues to accumulate?
Yeah, so interest and penalties will continue to accumulate on between 2000 to 2010.
Of principal,
Yes.
not interest, and not, I don't think that's legal.
It's not compounded.
Well, no, you can't charge interest, you can't charge interest on interest. You can only,
That's what compound.
yeah, you can only charge
Yeah, the
interest on
interest
principal.
accumulates from the principal amount that was due, which was, I can't remember the
You
number.
don't have that amount there on the fourth bullet, where it just says the total amount is 78 left over, but you don't have the breakdown of what that is a penalty, or is it principal?
1 second.
That could, well, it means a lot.
Sorry. There we go.
Well, really searching, one, I think it's in that presentation especially, we need to separate taxes, interest, and penalty. I think quite often we use the word taxes cumulatively, and it really is all three. And the point I'm gonna make is that, even though the interest and penalty has been rolling through our budget, it wasn't compensated for by other taxpayers paying. When you abate principals, yes, you're asking other people to pay your taxes. It was a learning curve for me to learn where that money, all that interest and penalty, where it was rolling through the budget year after year.
what's a big surprise to me is to learn what was spent on permits and legal fees.
Yeah, that was a.
That is absorbed by us, by you.
Yes, it
and me.
is, yes, it is.
On annual budgets, it's kind of a very eye-opening amount. Brandon, you were able to do that? Yeah, okay, so you've got the principal amount, so really what it's being now, today, let's say, is being acted onto would be the interest and penalty of about 28,357.76. That's the principal?
Yep.
That's outstanding?
And
So
then
that's
interest-
still going on then?
Yes,
Okay. So the rest, when you get that number, the big number at 87, that means that the 60, whatever, is what you said, John, penalty or interest.
between 2014 when this purchase and sale agreement was signed, and today, it was about $14,000 in interest and penalty. So the majority of this interest and penalty was prior to the purchase and sale agreement being signed.
Yep. 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 Do you have any other, so when I go ahead down to the next one then, the only time interest stops is when they're paid?
Yeah, it's when they're paid, a tax sale occurs or it's abated.
Okay, so wait a minute, the last one you said, so as of, like today, it's not complete?
No, as of,
Okay, what's outstanding?
so the resident had 3 conditions that we discussed. They're all satisfied. I still believe number 3 was misleading.
Okay, number 3 is what?
The sale of the Jason Smith Road property for no less than $20,000. That did not go towards the total delinquent taxes owed because that property was also had delinquent taxes. So really only $2,000 of the sale of that home went towards the delinquent taxes owed on the parcel that we're discussing relating to the purchase and sale agreement.
Okay,
The town's conditions, 4 out of 5 are not satisfied, and of the contingencies, half of them are satisfied.
so who is responsible for the contingencies? The town or
Both
the?
parties,
Both parties, okay.
right? When an agreement is contingent on something, both parties are responsible for those contingencies.
Right.
Okay, what are the two, I just wanna get to like what is not satisfied, because if something is, what you, in your judgment is completed, we kinda like, we can talk about them, but it doesn't make sense, so what is 1 and 4 on the not satisfied of the contingencies?
And did you ask the question on the town's
Well, I think whether it was a joint one.
Okay, the contingencies.
Yep.
So the first contingency was the town obtaining all necessary permits, including but not limited to the subdivision and wetlands permits needed for the subdivision, trailhead, parking lot, and trail. As referenced in the last meeting, our findings were that the wetlands permit was declined, so the town withdrew our application. We still have additional work to do there to get a permit, if a permit is required, and we don't know that yet.
Perhaps it's a little more important as I turn the pages here for you to go ahead through, when you take like number 1 on the summary, and then you go to what you put were questions and answers.
Yes.
Can you do that, because it's like,
Yeah.
that's kind of like pretty important.
Okay. So we went through each one of these in the last meeting. So if anybody wants to see that report again, I can send it electronically. In the last meeting, several questions were written down and given to me, and then a couple of members emailed me with questions. One of the questions was, how much has the town spent on legal fees? Darlene was able to pull this number between 2015 and 2019. So between that period only, we've spent $17,260.95 on legal fees. Another question that was asked is how much have we spent on appraisal, surveying, and permitting to date? And that number is $9,514. The total spent to date is $27,174.95. Another question that was asked is if this application is approved by the Board of Abatement without the 3-acre parcel and the easement backed out, in other words, we give back those 2 items, how much will the Board of Abatement be requested to abate? As of September 4th, 2020, the number on the application would be $97,247.42. Now again, a lot of that is interest and penalties, and it has been
what?
oh, the town's been, or excuse me, sorry, the auditors. I'll get to that in a
We
second,
need
I'm
to
sorry.
extend again.
Yes,
Motion to
15 minutes.
Another 15 minutes. Motion to extend another 15 minutes.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
So the next question was, how has the interest and penalty monies traveled to the budgets since the agreement was signed? The interest and penalty, and these came from our finance department. The interest and penalty for all delinquent taxes are charged to the revenue line in the year they are incurred, because we run a modified accrual accounting system. So each year the Abbott's interest gets charged to the general fund interest on delinquent tax line item. The next question, the auditors wrote off a large chunk in last year's audit. If this was wrong, then how do we undo it? So to be clear, and again, this came from the finance department, the auditors did not write off any of the Abbott's delinquent taxes, penalty, or interest. They made an adjusting entry. So to take the revenue out of the current year's budget and move it to the balance sheet, moving this debt to a liability, which is a negative asset on the balance sheet called allowance for doubtful accounts. This is often the case when a receivable remains on the books for a long period of time and no agreement has formally been made. When an agreement is reached, the liability will be debited for what the balance of the account is, since this is all the Abbott debt. This entry will not affect the budget except for the amount that remains up and above the allowance. So last year, the allowance was $69,400. So any amount over that would hit this year's budget if the Board of Abatement moved forward and approved it. The next question was, the budget always has an interest and penalty income line. Has the residents' interest and penalty been accounted for each year out of this line? Where this person was trying to go with this is, if the Board of Abatement forgives the entire amount of interest and penalty, what effect will that have in the year of the abatement, possibly this year? So if the Board of Abatement voted to forgive and abate all of the residents' interest and penalty today, according to our finance department, there would be no effect on the FY21 budget. This number changes the longer we wait and the more interest that accrues. The allowance for FY19 was $69,400, plus the audit adjustment for FY20, not known at this point, should offset the decision if the Board of Abatement abates the interest and penalty. Does the easement granted through this purchase and sale agreement lead all the way into the town forest? No. We need an additional easement from the Johnson family if we want a permanent easement. The state gave us informally an easement, but it's not a permanent easement, so it's an easement that can be taken away. So the easement may or may not be, the easement that we're paying for may or may not be be useful forever. Which, you know, if the board decides, I can have a chat with the Johnson family. I think there's something that they've offered us in exchange for their easement. So, is there a leach field on the 3-acre parcel the town acquired? Well, the answer is I really don't know. There's been no formal site assessment conducted to determine whether there is or there is not. And a site assessment is going to cost us money. So we need to determine whether or not we want to fulfill these conditions and contingencies first. And if the board decides that we do want to fulfill this purchase and sale agreement, then I'll feel comfortable spending money, but not until the board decides if we want to move forward with this. Otherwise, we're just wasting more money.
Can I comment on this one?
Yep.
I have it from what I consider to be reliable people that there is something there. What the scale is or what the scale is not is unknown. What I don't want to see the town do, this was done in regard to having a parking lot for traffic to then cross the road and access ultimately to get up into the Fellows Estate. But what I don't want to see is, and would have to happen, would be, obviously we're not going to be parking on loam. So the thought process, and help me out, John, I think was that there was going to be a parking lot of some kind built, which means dig the loam out and put gravel in or something so that it's not going to become just a big muddy mess. If we happen to hire somebody to dig and then we find a great big surprise, that would not be a good thing for the residents or us. And I have had conversations with neighbors that live right there, and there's something in the ditch. I don't know what that means. I don't know what it doesn't mean. I mean, it may mean that the town, it's already been transferred. The 3-acre parcel, or 286 or whatever it is, has been transferred to the town. We might have something that we don't, similar to like the transfer station. We might have accepted something that might not have a good outcome.
Now, the town forest project, the town forest itself, there's a lot of trails in the town forest. Chris and I walked them. It's beautiful out there, but you can access it from where we accessed it. It's just not within the town. It would be great to have a parking lot and access into the town forest from Weathersfield, but I just want to make sure that this is the right access.
I'm not, but my position is I'm not sure whether, but I think too much has gone by, but there needs to be a meeting of the minds to complete this.
Yep.
I've read these documents inside and out where there's some principle left. So the question for us is going to ultimately be, they're not in order. Does this board want to send this? But the problem is you'd have to get behind a proposal in order to give it to the Board of Abatement with a package of what you're talking about. And is this board, this board needs to make two choices. One, turn it over to the tax collector to do his job and mold together a proposal that keeps the easement and the right of way, but also notifies the resident that there's a balance due, to somehow it has to be rectified. Or does it go to the Board of Abatement for full approval and we just get on with life and kind of not know exactly what we're getting into? Paul?
So as of right now, it sounds like there is no legal binding contract, anything, because neither party has done what they're supposed to have done.
Well, the resident just completed their conditions in March of 2020.
Everything.
I still hold that number 3 is misleading, but yes, the conditions were met.
So I guess what I was getting at is if there is no legal binding, and I'm new to all this, other people have been dealing with this for years, but if there's no legal binding contract at this point, I would say that you don't even need to vote on anything. there's a property that has taxes due on it, and we have a process here in town. If there is a legal binding contract that has been entered in from previous with other, you know, groups and whatever, then yes, then we've got to follow through with that, and that then comes into your questions. It was where I'm asking, like, where.
Well, I would disagree with Brandon for a moment, because the original agreement assumed that the value of what we were talking about was going to equal at least the principal. And I'm not convinced that has been met.
I never said that was met.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying that
He's agreeing.
there was
He's
there was an original thought
I thought you
process
said disagree.
No, he's agreeing, yeah.
of the penalties and interest were going to not be considered at the moment, but the 42,000, I think it was, the original principal, was going to equate to an easement, the property,
Yeah.
and whatever the outstanding balance on the Jason Smith house taxes were. All of that principal was going to be lumped together, and we were going to move on. After seeing how all this thing plays out, and the appraisal that Brandon got for the 3-acre parcel at $23,000 doesn't factor into something if there's a septic issue on that. They didn't know about it, and they didn't take that into consideration. Did you have a
As
question?
far as contract concerned, we do have a purchase and sales agreement, and that is a contract. So in both parties
Okay.
are deficient to
Right,
some
yeah.
level.
So there
in
is still
completing
something.
it.
Because
Yes.
there's no time frame on it, that's right, there
That's-
was no time frame.
You're right.
There
That's
was
it.
no time frame, so, yeah.
You're right.
And then we can, well, I'll save that comment.
I think that too much has happened to me, and believe me, I was, months and months ago, before March. It was kind of a surprise when that happened, when the transfer, because I didn't know about it, neither did you. When my proposal was, and this was before I just found out that we got $27,000 more in cash and spent on this.
Yeah.
Beyond the penalties and interest and principal. But the easement's been transferred, the land has been transferred.
Yep, already done.
The house has been sold.
Yep. Yeah, that was the first up. That was first up.
That's the only thing that went reasonably well.
The only thing that I'm thinking is, if in fact that there is, and I'm just taking these people's word for it because I know them, I've known them for a long, long time, that if in fact there is a house, regardless of this issue, if there's a house that has a failing septic system that's depositing on town land, we would not allow that. If it was over to the garage site, we couldn't allow that there either. So that's kind of a generic thing that we need to think about. That potentially could say, in this case, you need to fix that at your site.
Your nickel.
Yes. Do you have any questions? No. Do you have any questions, Joe? I'm gonna keep this on the agenda till it's finished. We're not going anywhere. These numbers are making our hair turn more gray, but we're in this now to make a
Can
decision.
it go? I don't think it's.
My hair's never gonna turn
Are there
red,
any
so I'll
additional
ask.
questions? Because
Are there any additional questions? Brandon
at
needs
this
to know.
point,
He needs a
the
decision.
entire report is out there, I believe, and I don't know what else I can do in another meeting.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, well, is it possible for us to completely back out of any deal that we've made now? And just send this thing to the Board of Abatement and get it over with one way or the other?
Well, it doesn't work that way. The Board of Abatement is looking for advice, so it's a proposal. They're banking on us or Brandon to sum this up and ask them what you're looking for. You can't just throw a dartboard at it. So, and you need to have some logic to back up all the other taxpayers that haven't had this opportunity for all this time. So you need to have some thought process behind this as a final deal. You can't just say, gee, I think we'll just 83,462, goodbye. Because all of us are gonna say, why not me? So there needs to be some logic and application of at least the premise of the agreement was the principle. Did you meet the threshold of that dollar amount? I think it was 42 something. when you apply the sale of the house, the easement, the value of the 3 acres, does it meet that threshold? That's a pretty good question for the Board of Abatement to be considering. Yes?
If I have a piece of property, are there other properties that border the town forest?
One big one.
Well, McDermott's,
Yeah, big one.
Johnson's, and the state.
Well, Johnson, though,
And
no,
that's it.
Johnson's on the other side of Interstate.
There's no other properties from
He
anywhere
owns
else?
up there, Dave. He's between Abbott's and our property.
Yeah, but not,
It's a
what,
state.
yeah, but it's just for the water rights. It's not for,
No, he's got property. He's
Yeah,
got-
but it
there's
abuts
two stone walls.
no, but you can't get from Thrasher Road to the
Oh,
Fellows
if
Estate.
that's where you were going, is there
Well,
another way?
Are there any other people that would say, you spent
What the heck?
$100,000 to get that easement, you never came to me, I might have gave it to you for $20,000, you know, I got property that borders it. I'm just saying, is
I
there
don't think
anybody in
any,
that
I don't think,
situation?
I don't think at the beginning of this, I don't think anybody had an idea it was gonna run into this much trouble and money.
Well, I understand that,
It
but
couldn't.
here we are.
It couldn't, and to be honest, it wouldn't be.
And we got nothing. We pulled the wetland permit. We spent 10 grand on nothing.
It wouldn't be quite so problematic if we weren't on our third town manager trying to handle it.
No,
And
it-
if we
that's
had
some
kept
of
our
it,
nose to the grinding wheel, and the Abbotts are equally to blame, because their attorney wasn't getting stuff done.
Well, but there was no force. There wasn't any tax sale thing.
Correct.
So it was the
There
town.
was no,
The
there was no
town,
push.
the
You're
town,
right.
the town. There was no push.
Yep.
You might wanna extend the meeting if you still got more stuff you want.
Do we still want to talk about this, or do you have any other
No.
questions to
No.
get to Brandon or not? Okay, let's go to the,
That doesn't help Brandon, but we'll,
that doesn't
Yeah,
help
what
him, but-
just sit tight for a while.
We're on the, we're gonna, well, there's either, I think we're gonna get back to the same old thing. We're either gonna have to do what you said initially, which is to let him do his job and to say that, I'm sorry, but it's not complete, and we're gonna have a tax sale, or there needs to be a proposal to schedule a Board of Abatement meeting and.
Get it done.
Yeah,
But I'm not comfortable doing that now. I don't have,
I agree.
to back that. That's what
Yeah.
they're gonna look for. They're gonna look for us 5 to back the proposal, and then it's gonna go through, and then we're done. A split decision will not help this at all. It won't.
I make a
Motion.
motion to extend the meeting 15 more minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No.
I just wanna do the warnings and go.
Yes.
You guys are good.
Well, we can wrap up in less than 15 minutes.
I know.
Yes, okay.
We have a couple
Aye.
of appointments.
What's that?
We have a couple of appointments.
Okay. Let's, this is gonna be on the agenda again, and we absolutely, I really, anybody can feel free to email or question Brandon about one more thing, because I want a,
Questions?
Start working on the two
I want
proposals.
finality of this,
Yeah.
whether it's either gonna
Right.
go for
What's
a
it gonna
vote
be?
to go to the Board of Abatement or not.
Right, it's either going all in or all out.
All in or
We just
all
gotta
out.
figure
What's
it
it
out.
look like?
I don't know, one of the things that I asked would be a proposal to have some of this still exist, but still there's a balance due. And then what, right? I don't know. It's up to Brandon, he'll be the tax collector at that moment. Okay, let's go to, what do we gotta go to? What did you say, Brandon?
We have 3 appointments for
Oh,
the
we have
Recreation
appointments.
Commission tonight.
Huh?
We have 3 appointments for the Recreation Commission tonight.
Okay. Go
On
ahead, take
the
that up.
first appointment, I just want to note that there is opposition to this appointment. On July 20th, Mr. Whitten was on the agenda for an appointment to the Parks and Recreation Commission. The Select Board originally voted unanimously in favor of this decision. This decision was challenged because you are not a town resident. Is that correct?
Correct.
But you live in Baltimore,
Right. My property
which-
doesn't work, yeah.
which your property abuts Weathersfield. Okay. At that time, the Select Board rescinded that motion and voted not to accept Mr. Whitten's appointment to Parks and Recreation. At that time, the board asked me and Chris to do further research on whether or not he can be on the Parks and Recreation Commission as a non-resident. So Mr. Whitten did that research, so I felt comfortable enough to put his appointment back on the agenda, and that appointment has been challenged again, and I'm gonna let, is the person challenging this appointment on the phone?
But before you do that, Brandon, let me ask a question. How many members are on the rec committee right now? Do you know?
Well, there's 0.
0? No, isn't Sue Boyer on it?
Yeah, she has been, but I don't think she reapplied.
Yeah, nobody reapplied.
So 0? It really is 0? Okay, and then what is there? Is it a 1-year appointment? So does it
Yes.
expire on town meeting day?
Yep.
Okay.
And how many people can be on?
Make a motion
What,
for the 3 and get it over with.
Did you?
I think it's important,
What do you want?
Well, that
Excuse me.
it's a
No-brainer.
1-year appointment, but it expires on town meeting day. Hold on.
well, this appointment has been challenged. I was asked to read this memorandum into the record and distribute this to the board. Do
Okay.
you want me to read it?
Yep.
Okay. On July 20th, 2020, I challenged the appointment of Chris Whitten to the Parks and Recreation Commission on the grounds that Chris is not a resident of Weathersfield, Vermont. In trying to research the Weathersfield Parks and Recreation Committee residential requirements, I was told by the town clerk, Flo Ann Dango, that she did not have the Parks and Recreation binder that she had given to Mr. Whitten. I am therefore unable to research the committee policy and procedures for the Weathersfield Parks and Recreation Commission as had been recorded in the town clerk's office. I do, however, have concerns that any non-Weathersfield resident may be making decisions affecting Weathersfield and spending money collected from Weathersfield taxpayers. Citing Vermont state statutes does not necessarily reflect the contents of the Weathersfield Parks and Recreation Committee policy and procedures. I would ask that until those documents were provided for further research, that any non-Weathersfield resident not be appointed to this or any other committee. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Signed.
Lynn Esty. Chris, did you have it in your possession that she's charged you with, where something came out of the town clerk's office?
I prefer a statement to rebut this.
No.
Yeah, I'm going to answer the question. I did not have. I had it for told about an hour after my appointment was rescinded because I want to look at it myself. And this is the binder right here. I went in today and picked it up right from the town clerk's office. No questions asked. I had it in my possession about 30 seconds. It's everything that Parks and Rec has done from 2002 to 2018. There's no policy, just minutes and agendas, and that's it.
So do you think we have a policy on appointing, well, we have them on, do we have them on appointing committees at all? A policy? Is there any policy that says non-residents can't hold the,
I know the state may have some statutorily, but not to the little committees.
In order for non-resident to speak at a
Be
meeting,
thankful if you
you have to have permission, you have to have permission
Oh, I know.
to speak, right? Brandon, you don't know of any in the town here of a policy that's non-resident can serve on something like a park and rec?
Not for the
I
Parks
think
and
zoning
Recreation.
board and planning board and those things probably
Yes.
different.
As long as they're judicial, yeah.
Yeah, they allow it.
They do allow it?
Yes.
Non-residents?
Yes. The nature of the board should be made up of a majority of residents, is what it states
Well,
in the
residents.
statute. A majority of
Right.
residents. It specifically states a majority of residents. Doesn't say that I'm paraphrasing a little, but it addresses that a little bit before that, correct?
Yes.
Did you have, go ahead, Chris, did you want to say?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm getting.
I just want to read this. I just want to read this in the record as well. I got this morning. I found out about it, and I think it would be fair if I got a chance to rebut. So on September 8th, 2020, I received a memorandum from Lynn Edson, again challenging my appointment to the Parks and Rec Committee. In her memorandum, Lynn made several statements I'd like the opportunity to rebut. Lynn's claims that she was unable to research the committee policy and procedures filed in the town clerk's office. I've already talked about that. I had it for an hour. She could have asked me for it. She never did. I mean, it's been over a month since my last appointment. She has had ample time to go into that clerk's office and find that policy. I don't think it should be on me to prove it shouldn't be on me to disprove or to prove a negative. She's saying that there's a policy that I can't do it, but there's no policy. So how am I supposed to prove that she's wrong if there's no policy standing? So, but because there's no standing policy in Weathersfield prohibiting non-residents from serving on the committee, the policy defaults to town personnel policy, which there is one prohibiting, and the state authority. The state authority clearly states that the committee should and not shall consist of a majority of residents. Thus, residency is not a requirement, only a recommendation. Furthermore, should the select board appoint me to this committee, there are 2 others on the appointment agenda for today that are residents that would create a majority, and thus the state statute is satisfied. Furthermore, Lynn states that she has concerns about a non-resident making decisions for Weathersfield taxpayers. If this is with merit, I should resign, Brandon should resign, Darlene should resign, because we're not residents of Weathersfield, and we make decisions that affect taxpayers. We affect the day-to-day operations. We expend money in our budgets. We do everything that she's objecting about. And if that's the case, then we should just resign immediately. Again, this is the second time that Lynn has challenged this appointment without any supporting documentation or authority. The burden of proof should fall on Lynn to prove that a policy exists that would bar my appointment. It should not be on me to prove a negative. She has not only the opportunity to do so, but now 2, and these opportunities were over a month apart. The timelines indicate that Lynn has ample time to research and support her case and has failed to do so twice. This goes to show the issue is not a priority for her, and she once again came to the select board unprepared to support her position with authority. And this is the second time I've come to the appointment with the authority that shows it's reversal for me to serve. Lynn has never served on Parks and Rec Committee. She is not serving currently, and she is not expressing interest in serving in the future. And based on this fact, I question her motives and her standing to challenge the appointment. I'm interested in this opportunity because I love this town. This town abuts my property in Baltimore, and my family uses the parks and trails in this town all the time. I have worked in the town forest project. I would love to see the residents enjoy a healthy, safe, and enjoyable life. I want to see our children grow up with the opportunity to get outside and grow in our parks in a safe and appropriate forum. And there's much work to be done on Weathersfield's parks and isn't being done currently. These objections are just unnecessary delayed work and improvements that are much needed in our parks, and has left dangerous conditions that exist in our parks unaddressed. I would love the opportunity to serve this town and its people further, and thank you for your consideration of this appointment, and I hope to serve you more in a holistic way with this appointment.
Okay. Is there any other comments? Brandon, did you have a
Yes,
question?
somebody's requesting to speak in GoToMeeting.
Can everybody hear us online? Are they all able to hear us, Brandon? Or?
Yeah, I have everybody unmuted.
They're unmuted. You sure? Because no one's saying anything.
Hold on.
Technology.
Works great, works great.
Yeah. Can't help it.
Hello,
Hi.
Hello.
Yep, go ahead.
Brandon?
Yes.
So, I have been to the town clerk's office a couple of times, and both times, including today, was told the folder was not available by the town clerk. I have nothing against Chris. Chris is a wonderful guy. I think he'd do wonderful things. My concern, as I stated in my response, was I would prefer to have Weathersfield residents on this committee and have Weathersfield residents making decisions about Weathersfield. I haven't been able to view the folder. All the times I've asked for it, it has not been available. I have been on the Parks and Rec committee before, and I have no problem in joining it again, but I do live here in town, and I do pay taxes, and I am an active volunteer. So it's nothing against Chris, it's just that I personally feel that if we need to have Weathersfield residents on Weathersfield boards and commissions.
Lynn, I think that someone said that there's a difference in the what people can do. First, I asked the question whether or not how many people could serve on this committee, apparently there's no cap. And then I also asked what this was, it's a year appointment or they're in until town meeting day.
There is no cap, but there is 5 voting members
Okay,
to spend money.
okay.
No, we spend money.
Yeah, I think the money either gets appropriated by us or the manager. Well, the manager, right, the committee would go to the manager to authorize spending money.
We approve it.
In the bills, yeah. I take your point, but there's a lot of times when we don't even have the volunteers to do anything.
Right.
And so I don't,
I'm just concerned about the precedent it's gonna set.
yep,
And
okay.
like I said, I have nothing against Chris. I think Chris would be a great asset. My only concern is he's not a Weathersfield resident.
What about Mark Richardson?
Mark Richardson recently purchased a house in Weathersfield.
Okay, so I'm aware of that.
Okay,
So,
Paul, go ahead.
all right, so I just, if we don't have a I just wanna know, do we have a policy or not? If we don't have a policy, then we need, I feel that not tonight, but on another agenda, we need to decide as a board if, based on state regulations too, what do we wanna do for what committees, and just, and put it to bed instead of saying, we're not, not sure. There's been nobody on it for however long, so I don't think a handful of weeks or month is gonna matter. It's coming into winter time. I don't know, I mean, there's skiing, there's other things, it's cross country or whatever. Right now, there's 2 people that wanna be on it that are residents, 1 that's not. We have 0 people on it right now. This town does have a problem getting people. But I just wanna make sure that whatever procedure or policies that we have in place that we're following, and if we don't have something that's being questioned, let's figure out how to make it so it's not questioned anymore going forward. That doesn't help tonight with Chris's thing, but I just meant, you said there's nothing that we've been able to find as of yet saying that a resident can't, that has to be a resident on that particular committee.
No.
You haven't, and Chris hasn't. Lynn has not had a chance to look at the booklet, correct?
It's not correct.
Well, let me, I'm not, I don't wanna get into that. All I'm saying is, Lynn indicates she has not had a chance to look at the booklet. Is there?
Well, if this is getting into a debate about who spends money or not, do you know if you, meaning you as the manager, do you authorize these committees to spend money, or can they just vote to spend money by themselves and then I know we get the orders, John, but is that how it works, that they come to you for expenses, even
Yes.
at a certain dollar amount? So it's not necessarily true that they get to have a meeting and then say, we wanna spend like $5,000. They gotta come to you to get
absolutely
authorization to do
not.
it?
Yes, they have to come to me, and if it exceeds my value, then it comes to the select board for approval. However, I think we should, in my opinion, I think we should create a policy that, like Paul was saying, and then have that policy voted on, because this way everybody will have an opportunity to be heard. Maybe there's more people in town that think it's okay for the majority to be Weathersfield residents or
again,
non-Weathersfield residents.
procedurally.
Right now, we only have, I don't think we have enough.
We don't have enough. John, go ahead
I
first.
make a motion to appoint Chris Wooden, Olivia Savage, and Mark Richardson to the rec committee and welcome them with open arms.
Second?
Did you have okay, motion been made and seconded to appoint those 3, Mark Richardson, Olivia Savage, and Chris Whidden to the Parks and Rec Committee. Did you have any discussion? Did you have a question, Joe?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if it's about spending money and not living in town, we hired the guy. He works for us.
He's spending our money.
He's already doing it, that's what I said. So is Brandon. If you don't trust either of these 2 guys, tough at this point. They work for us. Sorry.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the 3 appointments as noted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Can I
go to warrants, please?
Yeah, I wanna make sure, I wanna figure out a policy on this though,
Okay.
going forward,
Okay.
or take that up,
We're
Brandon.
gonna go to warrants.
Yeah, I'll put policy on the agenda.
Go, John, go.
Make a motion to approve warrant article September 8th, 2020, general fund payroll, $23,339.26, operating $36,702.30, highway payroll $11,149.98, operating $42,634.21, solid waste payroll $2,477.09, operating $9,494.40. Library payroll $2,861.40, grants $1,368.02, total payroll $39,827.73, operating $90,199.43.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the warrants of September 8th, 2020 as noted. Any discussion?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. I
Go
know
ahead.
it's late, I'm sorry.
Yep.
On page 1 of 2, and I think it's, I don't know how to differentiate which page this is, but there's a line item that says commercial card services, 820, and another one that says commercial card service, 820. But it says water APP, comma, late fee. Water APP late fee. Are these credit card late fees that we're paying? So
What check number are you? If you can do
well,
that.
it's not a. It's a check number.
Yep.
Sorry, 222825, and 222825.
Okay, so you're down all the way to the bottom.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what the late fee means. Did we not pay the credit card, or? I don't know if anybody's on that can answer that, or.
I'm looking. 222825.
Yeah.
What was the amount of the purchase?
It says 44.97, and the description is water, comma, APP, comma, late fee. And then the next one is 222825, and it says water, comma, APP, comma, late fee.
And so, help me out, what page are you on? Because I went to 1 where you were.
Yeah,
The
page
general fund, right? I'm looking
Yeah.
at 222825.
Page 1 of 6, up in the top.
Page
right.
one of 2, it says.
Okay, 1 of 2, so you're a different account.
Yeah,
You're way into it.
Oh, okay.
yeah, general fund,
You're
yeah,
on highway fund.
no,
It is general fund.
yeah, 8/17/20 to 9/2/20.
What is the date of the check?
8/28/20.
Okay, that's not relevant.
And I don't necessarily have to have an answer tonight. I'm, you know, if I'm signing these monies, I just was curious of how it works.
So we are in the process of doing a late fee project. I know Steve Heyer worked really hard on this the past week. So I will have that for the board to review, all
Okay.
of our late fees on all of our credit cards.
Okay.
And our next steps moving forward.
Yep.
So I know Steve made several recommendations today. And I'd like the opportunity to.
Nope, that's it. I don't need an answer. And I have one more quick thing if I can.
Go ahead.
Some of the fees that we're doing, I do know that for a Scutney Water District number 2 is kind of merged with the town, and they're taking over some of our billing and helping. And then West Weathersfield Fire Department, we do the billing for. It looks like though that we're paying out money, and we as select members are signing off on that check and that money going out. Is the money's coming in from these groups, but is that general normal practice that we would sign to pay something that we're not even in charge of? Or if we were going to, let's say, Scutney Fire District number 2, we would just have our accounting person have access to that account and be able to go in and out of that, not necessarily us. I don't know why I'm signing my name to something that I don't have control over.
Well, see, it's a tricky thing because the select board actually does appoint the prudential committee members. Yep. And I can pull it up now.
Well,
I know it hasn't been done in the past, but so
I'd like to just talk about those issues next time. I don't want to hold this up anymore now, but
I can speak on the fire department though.
yeah.
The town gives the fire department money, and they have the money over here, when bills come in, Josh signs off on it to approve them, it's paid out of that account, that's why you guys are signing off on it.
Okay, so now
It's
that,
not like their money, it's the town's money that they gave.
okay,
them.
so every single thing that we sign for West Weathersfield or any of the fire departments is
I can't speak to the other fire department.
no, I understand that. Also, so let's say West Weathersfield, there's the only thing we can, that we're spending that is the money that the town has issued to them.
That's on West Weathersfield, I can say yes.
Okay,
Because I know
so,
that we paid
so any
those.
fundraising money that gets spent separately doesn't come through this group? Okay, so then we're not really doing all the books for them, for West Weathersfield, we're just doing partial books for them.
I can't speak to that, I just know the money you sign for our bill is the bills to the town.
That
Taxpayers pay.
is actually taxpayer money that's going out. Because on here too, for Scutney, for Scutney, Fire District Number 2, the Water District,
Yeah.
we have Steve Smith and you know, gets paid out and so on. But like I
Yes.
said, we're signing for him.
And then the fire
Okay.
district, or Scotty Water District now, shall I say, reimburses the town for that. But
Select board order to establish fire district. Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded to
Approve,
approve the
yep.
warrants dated, September 8th, 2020. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yep.
Stop.
The switch. Motion to adjourn?
No.
Yeah.
Executive
Yeah,
session.
we got executive session.
We'll adjourn after.
Motion to adjourn to executive session, but well, Brandon, help me out. Are you skipping one of them?
Thanks, Ray. Thank you.
Right.
Night, Ray, thank you.
yes, I would like to move my executive session to a future meeting.
That's the personnel.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, there is there will be a motion to go in executive session for a complaint. The complaint is issued against me, and the vice chair will take it up, and I will exit stage left.
Exit stage left. Put your mask on.
I need to be,
Your cow mask on.
who's that? Who is that? Who says that? Snagglepuss.
Yep. Exit stage
Oh,
left.
exit stage left. The,
Karen and Bob Barra, long
it's the kids.
old, you gotta be,
Comics.
yeah, cartoon style one.
Um,
Is everything turned on?